Tasha, you ready? Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to hear public input on the draft ordinance regulating discharge of firearms. A couple of ground rules. We'd ask that you speak no more than 3 minutes and that you don't speak again until everybody that wants to speak has had a chance to speak. We ask that you come up and use the microphone and state your name for the record. We ask that you be respectful. It's okay to disagree. We just don't need to be disagreeable at this point. This is a fact-finding mission for us to figure out which way we're going to go. We will not be making a decision tonight. So with that, I will open the hearing.
It's going to go faster than I thought.
I'll start right off, I guess. My name's Matt Prime. I've lived in town 45 years. I'd like to thank y'all for being on this panel. I know most of you. I was wondering, is the person that proposed this, are they here tonight?
Yes. A couple of people, yeah.
Okay. I was just, and I see we have a couple of people from our police department here. I'm just wondering, in the last year, how many reports of discharges there has been and how many of them were actual firearms discharges? Do you have a guess on that?
To our knowledge, we have two. And one thing I did forget to mention, would you please address the board when you're talking, because we're the ones you're talking to, not the audience.
Well, it's the police officers that are going to be going to check on all this, so they should have some idea what's going on, shouldn't they?
Yes. To our knowledge, there have been two incidents.
Okay.
One in the district and one outside the district.
Okay. Now, as far as in the village, it kind of makes common sense, and I would say for the most part people don't. But every time there's a skunk or there's something in a barn, especially a cow barn or whatever, I mean, is this going to be, you're going to have to call the local police department to go shoot a rat? Or this is, you know, it sounds like we're making an ordinance for a problem that doesn't exist, which is true for a lot of things that go on these days. They have a similar ordinance up in Shelburne, and that's been taken to court on a few different occasions, and it has not held up because it goes against the Constitution, Article 1617 of the Vermont Constitution. So, in your fact-finding and stuff, no offense to this lady here, but I think you should take into consideration how long these people have been here and what they're used to and where they're from and what they're used to there, because they're not there anymore, they're here. Thank you.
Can you make sure the mic's on?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you can't hear it. The acoustics in here are horrible, but it is on.
Please talk into the mic. Can you talk a couple inches away from the best way?
Hi, my name's Danielle Madison. I am the Vice President of the Vermont Bowhunters Association, so I'm here representing specifically the bow hunters in Bristol. And we oppose the proposed discharge ordinance. As stated, the ordinance would not allow anyone to hunt in the town of Bristol without a permit. The Constitution of Vermont, Section 67, states that the residents of Vermont have the legal right to hunt their own property as well as public property. The ordinance would mean that bow hunters would not be allowed to do target practice in their yard, whether they had the room for it, you know. And that is an integral part of hunting. How can we be expected to make a clean, ethical kill if we can't be sure that our equipment is working properly? not everyone has the opportunity to go elsewhere to do target practice. With no hunting or limited hunting, you'll find that wildlife population will not be kept in check and will slowly become a nuisance. There will not be enough resources for the population as it grows, and they will, then basically have a slow, painful death of starvation in the winter. And I've personally spent several hours reading through the Bristol public police reports, and there have not been any incidences involving bows. So there's really no grounding for this kind of ordinance, especially for, in my opinion, for compound, recurve, crossbows. Thank you.
Did you say Dana? Did you say your first name was Dana?
Danielle.
Oh, Danielle, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I got it spelled. Thank you, sorry. Danielle.
My name's Colleen Schuster, and I posted some things in the Addison Independent and also in the Front Porch Forum because of the incident that happened 2 doors down from where I live. And I am not opposed to hunting at all, and I don't want to piss off the hunters, upset the hunters. That's not my goal here. The problem is that there was a guy who was crazy, and he was shooting for 10 minutes, and when we called the state police, they couldn't come, and it scared the hell out of me. And they said it's because you don't have a gun ordinance. And we had a heroin dealer on our street for a few years, and I had no idea what was going on. And the fact that no police would come, it just was horrible. So I don't want you to mess the hunting regulations, but I would like the police to come when there's an emergency.
Jim Quaglino. You guys heard me say it before, we had one complaint in the district and one complaint outside of the district. Look how the town is divided. This is causing a division among our people. This is not right. This is not Bristol. This is not necessary. I've said it before. If there's a problem, contact the police department. I'm quite sure our guys will go to any place in town that you want them to go to. And they'll discuss it with the people. Find out if it's safe or not, but to pass an ordinance that everybody has to adhere to, not good, guys. That's my side. No, guys, everybody's here, speak up.
I think ordinances are for people that will obey the law, and if you get somebody that doesn't care, they're gonna do it anyway. And I think we just have too many ordinances and not enough enforcement.
Name, please, mother.
Diane Pepperton.
Lance Purley. There's a couple things in the ordinance that kind of bothered me. One was that the police chief would be the one deciding whether or not they would get a permit or not. They are only in the police district. So I'm paying for the police to be in the police district. So now I'm going to be paying for them to be going to the Notch, to 116, So we're now going to have to spend thousands of hours for him to go out to all these different places and look at everything. I think that needs to be really looked at. And the second part was the whole part about the BB gun section. I think that is really pushing it to the limits. I mean, if you really read the way that's written, that is, a kid can't practice lacrosse with his lacrosse stick. I really think that needs to be looked at hard.
Hi, Brian McCormick. How many residents live in Bristol? In all, total?
Residents, I'd say under 4,000. Maybe about
Okay,
38,
so
3,900.
no disrespect to the people the two that it happened to. So basically, the board is come up with this because 2 people complained, and it's going to affect 4,000 people. Yeah, I've complained about dogs for well over a year, and we've gotten pretty much nowhere with it. but yet 2 people complain. I think the board needs to get their priorities straight and get rid of this. This is not for Bristol. It just does not belong here. If there's a problem, have the police go and take a look at it. I understand she called the police, but there's got to be an alternative than to dictate, and that's just what you are going to do, is dictate what we do. And with that said, I'll tell you a little quote that was wrote in 1934, which was, if you take everything from the people all at once, they'll revolt against you. But if you take a little bit at a time, then you'll have control of them. And you know who that lunatic was? Adolf Hitler. I don't think we need to be him. I think we just need to have our little village and deal with it. Thank you.
How you doing? Bruce Archivati. And what I want to tell you, I think this is a well thought out ordinance. I appreciate the effort you put into this. And I think most people in Bristol that have guns are responsible. And I think that they care about their neighbors, and they wouldn't do anything that would be, detrimental to their neighbor's health at all. I thought maybe 500 feet might have been pretty far, but that's within the safety zone. And I thought about that. It's pretty reasonable. I think maybe you might want to think about maybe modifying it to be where when neighbors are okay with that, maybe the person who wants to discharge an arm can shoot or in their yard or something, contacts their neighbors, and without having to go through the town and saying it's okay, at least this, show some respect. The other thing that I might suggest is that you might want to look at the hours of shooting. I don't think it really is permissible to have people be shooting after dark. I think that really scares a lot of people, upsets people, and also direction in which you shoot, basically is keeping it within one's own property boundary would be really kind of important. And also the duration. We don't want to have a shooting range in Bristol unless we get a lot of people who really are interested in doing that. But other than that, I think you're doing a good job, and I think it's well thought out. Thank you.
Thank you for this hearing. My name is Brian Nye. I live in the town. To follow up what the gentleman before me had just said, I own a little over 10 acres. With the 500-foot limit, there isn't any place on my lot that I could legally shoot. I've been there 21 years. We have used firearms consistently there. And, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and my son's a Marine Corps veteran, and safety and firearms are what we do. Again, thank you for this meeting.
Hi, I'm Ed Cutler. I'm the president of the Gun Owners of Vermont, and we represent 4,000 people roughly statewide. There's a number of problems with this action. Number one, this is a Dillon Rule state, which means this town is subject to state law and state approval and a state constitution. In 1903, the state versus Rosenthal, the city of Rutland had it overturned a permit system by the Vermont Supreme Court. 3 months ago, in Williston, the North Country Sportsmen's Association won a lawsuit in the Vermont Supreme Court on the discharge of firearms at their range. This means that noise ordinances, which is what the major decision was about, and the discharge of firearms is constitutional. So for this board to pass a firearms discharge ordinance would be illegal under that, and that also overturned part of the Sportsman's Bill of Rights, which basically a state law that says you can regulate the discharge in the village. That has been overturned because of this Supreme Court decision. A lot of the problems with this bill as written is the discharge of similar weapons to firearms. That could be a Nerf gun, a water pistol, a potato gun, or any toy that discharges a little cork that sticks in the wall. As far as the 500-foot safety zone, there's already a state law in place. Any property owner can post safety zones around any building they own. So if they don't want people discharging firearms around that area, they simply come to the town hall and get safety zone signs or anything along those lines. Permits to discharge is highly unconstitutional. Again, that stems back from the Rutland case in 1903, which directly relates to firearms. I have a lot of members that are cops. Some of them are chiefs, and I can appreciate the work the chief did trying to write this bill, but 5, 10, 15, or 20 years down the road, is that same person going to be the same chief? Is that person going to be pro or anti-gun? You're leaving the discretion of where a person can shoot by somebody who might be anti-gun and close up everything in here, including sportsmen's clubs, firing ranges, and any place that's truly safe. The one recommendation I could give you is find a place in town or inside the town somewhere where people can practice shooting without having any safety issues. The laws are in place now. If somebody is shooting at somebody else or if somebody merely points a gun at somebody else, it's already law under reckless endangerment, and it carries stiff fines penalties by state law. So any complaint like that that's true can be tried and the person can be convicted. I thank you for your time. We will be having a letter sent to you in the next couple of weeks by our attorney, Cindy O, lives over in Middlebury, explaining exactly what these laws actually mean. So hope you read it when she sends it to you. And I thank you people for letting us speak. Okay?
Hey, I'm Fred Schroeder. I live on Notch Road. I lived in Bristol for 14 years. I want to just say that I oppose the ordinance against the discharge of firearms. I have a few things I just wanted to bring up. Maybe this won't work. Okay. My closest neighbor is within 500 feet of my house. And I routinely target practice in my yard, and I don't point my firearm towards my neighbor's house. It's common sense. I teach hunter education in Bristol. I want to just let you know that my opinions do not reflect Fish and Wildlife Department's opinions. I've taught hunter education in Bristol for the past 3 years. Okay. Do we need a law for something that's really there aren't many issues for? We need a law. Laws need to be changed. Laws are changed when there's a severe need for a change. There is no severe need for a change here. Okay? There were 2 isolated incidents in Bristol. But we need to understand also there's a lot of recreational shooting that goes on in Bristol. Do we have that documented? Do we know how many people actually shoot safely in Bristol? Many, many people shoot safely in Bristol with no accidents. Okay? Do we know what the injury rates are for target shooting? Extremely, extremely low versus riding a bicycle or swimming. Okay? Do we need laws on riding bicycles? Do we need laws on swimming? Okay? There are provisions in this law to have the police come and look at your property if you want to fire a gun, or if you want to shoot a gun near 500 feet of a building. I hunt in many, many places in Bristol, and I can't count the number of times that I move around and do different things. And the police are going to be very busy looking at properties in all the places that I go to. It's going to severely impact my hunting and inconvenience me if I have to call the police chief to come and look every time I want to go to a different place. It's ridiculous. Okay. Quick questions for the police department. Was this law or this proposal about a BB gun? Did it start up because of a BB gun? No. How about a paintball gun? No. A slingshot. My 10-year-old son's slingshot right here. Okay? 500 feet? How about this? This isn't even in it. Does anyone know what this is? It's a blowgun. Oh, this is the only thing I can hunt with now in Bristol if we have this law. It's ridiculous. Okay, Matthews Genesis bow, used by 49 out of the 50 states in in the archery in schools program. They shoot in schools with these bows. Very safe, regulated. Okay. Are there any towns surrounding Bristol that need to have this regulation? None. Bristol's going to lead the way in the 5-town area. There's about a town firing range. We don't even want to go there. And a lot of people think that maybe we should have one. You don't want to go there. It's a lot of problems to have a firing range, a shooting range. You don't want to have one in Bristol because it's going to open up lots of people are going to be very upset about having shooting going on in their town, around their houses. Right now, we do it just fine. You hear a lot of target practicing going on before hunting seasons, and it's fine. We live in a rural area. We get along just fine. And I want to say I'm sorry for the trauma you guys have gone through. I really am. I'm sorry it happened to you. It's isolated incidents. We're going to have to hire more police officers to come and look at these properties. Taking officers off the street for drug violations, DUIs, and violent issues, whereas the officers are going to be up in the notch looking at properties. They're going to be over at Butler's farm seeing where I'm shooting pigeons, okay? This is ridiculous, okay? And I honestly feel, last thing I'm going to say, I've probably gone beyond the 3 minutes. The neighbors, you guys are just got to get along with each other. You got to learn to talk to each other, okay? This is about neighbors not getting along, okay? And it's affecting everybody in Bristol, all right? A few isolated incidents are affecting everybody in Bristol. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, thanks, Speaker. Appreciate the time and thank you for what you do.
I'm short.
You're not standing in the center of the room.
Tanya Lawyer. So I'm one of the bad people that went to the select board and asked for this ordinance, and if we could do something about this. And basically, some of the comments that have been made, I have contrary information. The gentleman that talked about posting a 500-foot safety zone, yes, you can get safety zone placards. However, you have to post them exactly the way the Fish and Game dictates it. Otherwise, it means nothing. The second thing is the safety zone only pertains to the area within that zone, not outside the zone. There's a lot of misinformation regarding that people I've talked to that they assume or thought that there was a law that had to do with having to do with Fish and Game, that you couldn't hunt or discharge a firearm within so many feet of a residence as it pertains to hunting rules. Not the case. There's no such rule. The only rule is you have to be 25 feet off of a paved road, with the exception of a class 4 road, in order to discharge your weapon at an animal. In our case, in our development, which is outside the district, this gentleman was shooting off his back deck towards a road that I was driving on, not happy about it. When I called the police, I was told, well, we can't do much because there is no ordinance. So when the state police arrived and went to investigate, the gentleman had been drinking, he lied to the cops, and then subsequently we found out through investigation that we did have a witness that saw him shooting towards the road, although he said he was shooting at the ground. And he may well have been doing that. However, if you know Broadview Estates, it's nothing but a large rock, so ricochets could easily happen. And as far as being safe, we came to the board to ask for this because of safety issues. And most people that own guns and use guns or hunt know common sense when to shoot and when not to shoot, as it pertains to shooting across a road or near a residence or a building or a barn or whatever the case may be. However, in this case, the gentleman lied to the state police to begin with, but all he would have had to say to the state police is pound sand, I'm not going to even talk to you, and there is absolutely nothing that we could do. Absolutely nothing. People drive on that road, people walk on the road, and the issue of it being, yes, we are fairly rural out there, but within that particular development, we are very close. And the gentleman that was talking about the hunter safety, if you profess that, you teach safe hunting, unfortunately, not everybody uses common sense. And when you add alcohol to the mix or drugs, makes it even worse. I'm a gun owner, I'm a former police officer, I hunt, I fish, and do I feel that I'm somewhat limited in where I can hunt or where I can practice? Yes, but that is based on what is available to me. I was surprised myself when I went onto the Fish and Game website and saw how many active areas are that you can go and shoot and be safe. And there are plenty of places that you can go and shoot and be safe, and you don't need to be doing it in the middle of a development. There are a lot of misconceptions about whether or not, according to the gentleman back there, as to whether or not the town can make this ordinance. They are absolutely within their rights. And the deal in Williston was they were trying to regulate a shooting range, which is against the law. They have every right to shoot at a shooting range. However, the town has every right to make an ordinance under Title 24 that has to do with discharging a firearm within the confines of the village, or what are we calling it out there? Outside the district. So we are looking for safety measures. And it's easy to say, well, go talk to your neighbors. But if your neighbor is intoxicated or doesn't want to talk to you, and the police can do nothing to help you, then trying to talk to your neighbors is not going to be beneficial. And then it just creates more hard feelings.
Amos Martin. So I just put together some information. I didn't know that Chief Gibbs had got this from Barry until after I read the last set of meeting minutes, but just bear with me. It is likely a safe bet that the police chief in Barry gave the Bristol police chief advice based on a city Barry ordinance that existed prior to the 2006 amendment to Title 24, Section 2291. That Barry ordinance was impacted by that same law cited in the Supreme Court decision in North Country Sportsman's Club versus Town of Wilson, published on June 2nd, 2017. The reason that the Barry ordinance was amended in December of 1996 was because on July 26, 1996, Judge David Sontag had ruled that the city's ordinance was illegal and in violation of Title 24, Section 2295. That was in December. The Barre City Council repealed the section that the judge had ruled was illegal. The remaining discharge ordinance became defective when the legislature amended Title 24, Section 2291 in 2006. Given the language of the proposed Bristol ordinance, the Barre chief was using an ordinance that had been seriously impacted in 2006, when Title 24, Section 2291, Paragraph 8, and Title 10, Section 5227 were enacted. Just as there had been no change in the state law regarding municipal authority over firearm discharge, just like Barre was operating in 1996, not recognizing the 1988 enactment of Title 24, Section 2295, which Judge Sontag ruled as illegal. So with that said, the proposed municipal ordinance is open to dictation, but further boards down the road and other police chiefs, this proposed municipal ordinance does ban firearm discharge for hunting, prohibited by Title 24, Section 2295. This proposed ordinance does not recognize existing shooting ranges, which doesn't matter in the town of Bristol because there isn't any. Safety zones, it mentions safety zones in the ordinance. There's already a safety zones are established already by the state of Vermont, so you'd have to change the wording. So there's a lot wrong with this ordinance, as I just read. And under the exemptions, it only says that you can shoot rabid animals. I believe that's what it says, where you can't even shoot a woodchuck on your property if it's in your garden or flower garden. I have a copy of the the Vermont Supreme Court decision here. I'll leave that with a copy. You have it already?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
But thank you.
That's it, thank you.
Steve Heffernan. So listen to both sides. I'm sorry you feel like you're being offended under this case, but listening to the circumstance, you did call the police. They did eventually come. And with this ordinance, what's it really going to change? They're not going to hurry any faster. And gosh, it's going to cost me $75 for you to come in the door and give me a problem that I fired my weapon. It really is not going to change anything that happened up in your situation. We have responsible gun owners, majority. There's always a fool in the crowd that ruins it for the rest of us. Again, isolated incidents should not affect the whole town, and I hope the board looks at that long and hard. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ginny Bukowski, and I live on East Street. Several months ago, I came home on a Saturday afternoon, and I heard guns in my backyard. I looked out, there was a man and a woman shooting a pistol, not a gun, not a rifle, not a shotgun, nothing to hunt with, but a pistol, less than 100 feet away from my house in my yard. That's when I contacted Therese and asked if there was an ordinance, and if not, could one be discussed? To address some of the comments that have been made so far tonight, someone wanted to know a bit of history. I was born in the country. I grew up spending 50% of my time in the country. My degree is in wildlife biology. I am not anti-gun. I am not anti-hunting. I am pro-hunting. So that has nothing to do with this. Turns out the man who was shooting his pistol in my backyard was teaching his mother how to shoot. He did not have any kind of credentials that he could show me that he was a qualified instructor. My yard is full of boulders. Where he was shooting was 50 feet, less than 50 feet away from Route 116. As I said, it was less than 100 feet from my house. and was about 200 feet from the main trail that goes up to the ledges. I couldn't imagine a more difficult place for someone to decide to shoot a gun. And I think that all of the gun owners here would agree that that was pretty darn stupid. The reason he started shooting there is because he was new to Bristol. He was new to Vermont. He called the state police and asked, is there an ordinance? And they said, no, shoot anywhere. Just be a good neighbor and ask the neighbors if it's okay. He asked the neighbor between us. The neighbor said, oh yeah, just go shoot up back there on my land. So that's a bit of history as far as people were asking and wondering where this came from. Although there were only 2 official complaints about guns being shot, over the course of the months, in meetings, in discussions, I've heard of 5 incidences total within about 4 months here. I've also heard of a case that happened a few years ago where someone decided to set up a target practice in his attic in the center of town. Of course, the walls of a house stop bullets very effectively. With this most recent arrest with the drug dealers in the center of town, that even heightens my concern, because coming from where I come from, which is a cross between suburbia, which was very safe, and the country, which was also very safe with gun owners, I'm concerned about drug dealers not having regulations on any guns that they may be bringing into town. For signage versus ordinances, the regulations are pertaining to hunting. It's the Vermont agency that regulates hunting. You can post your signs to not hunt. You cannot post your signs to not target practice. To address some of the comments made on Front Porch Forum, no one's been killed yet. How many casseroles, how many apologies will suffice when someone is killed? In Vermont, there were 70 firearm deaths in 2015, according to the CDC. The most recent data goes to 2015. Vermont Highway Safety noted that there are only 57 motor vehicle accidents. Guns kill more than people. There was another comment on Front Porch Forum that no other town in Vermont has an ordinance. Well, you might want to talk to Chief Gibbs about that, because he has a stack of folders of records of other towns that do have other ordinances. And they are not just Burlington and Williston and Winooski and higher residential areas. There are places that are 1,000 people in residence. The town has a speed limit to regulate people from speeding through town to protect us. There's a law against texting and driving. Yes, most people obey these laws. Most of these are common sense, but the laws give the police teeth behind the laws to do something about people who don't obey the laws.
Sorry, I have to cut you off.
Can I just say 2 more things? Please?
I'll give you 2 more things.
Okay, thank you. The ordinance is not a first step in taking away guns. And for the last comment I want to make is, I thank the Select Board for being very patient all over these months. To address another comment made on Front Porch Forum, their job is to keep the community safe, not just to keep gun owners safe. They are gun owners. They have their own personal perspective, but they need to consider everybody in the community. Thank you.
My name is Brad Bushy. Just in some things that they've had in that draft, the 500 feet I'm with Mr. Nye on that. He's got 10 acres, and he can't be within 200. You get a lot of these 1 acre lots, 2 acre lots, you don't even have 200 feet of road frontage, say from neighbor to neighbor. I mean, not that you're gonna shoot at your neighbor, but to go on to that, even the police to verify, see if you can. If you can't get a verbal between your neighbor to shoot, you shouldn't have to have the police there as well. That's what I'm saying. It's not, if you get, not saying you do get along with your neighbor, even if you don't, you can still get a verbal from him. We probably would not mind that you could be disposing of, like, maybe a coyote killing his chickens or cats, whatever. As far as needing an ordinance for somebody to target practicing on your property, that should be trespass, not anything to do with an ordinance. And if it's a case up in Broadview Estates, perhaps, I don't know if you have any kind of suggestions on your part. If they already have, like, you got to keep your lawn mowed, maybe there should be a law amongst the estate people that you don't have firearms discharged in your development. I know they do that in other places. As far as this going 25 foot off the road to shoot at a deer, well, I don't go that far, I don't think, but I get off the road. I don't bring a tape. I don't bring a tape to see if the neighbor's 500 feet. Before I shoot that deer, I make sure that I'm not shooting near a house. If a deer happens to run between two houses out in the country, it's a good chance it's not going to make it. But I think 500 feet is way too much anyway, even though I do disagree with even having this ordinance.
Pete Lossman. I've lived in Bristol most of my life. I run a little animal damage control business, and I do a lot of business right here in Bristol. It's going to be a pain in the butt when I have to stop and see the chief before I go and shoot that woodchuck or whatever it is causing a problem on somebody's lawn. I guess, you know, ordinances are good, but you just can't fix stupid. This ordinance isn't going to stop that guy who's on drinking or he's on drugs or whatever. It's not going to stop him from doing what he's doing. Most of the gun owners are responsible people and respect their neighbors and treat them right. This ordinance is going to affect most of the people in a negative way. So I'd just like to say I oppose the entire thing. Thank you.
Diane Saunders, responsibility. I read the Addison Independent every week and look at the police reports. Look in there and see how many people are in there for their 3rd, 4th, 5th DUIs. Their licenses have been under suspension for other things. And again, 3, 4, 5 times they've been picked up. We can't, like the last speaker just said, we can't stop stupidity. Those of us who are responsible gun owners are going to maybe go ahead and get the permits. The people who aren't responsible, they're just going to shoot wherever the hell they want to shoot. So how are we going to stop that? Doesn't matter what you fine them. Look at these people who are picked up for DWI 3, 4, 5 times. They don't care what the fine is. They keep doing it. They keep going back.
Hi, I'm Cole Lossman. Just to kind of reiterate what everybody else has been saying, this ordinance really only applies to law-abiding citizens. You get, like some other people mentioned, some drug dealers in town or people drinking or, you know, anything that is already questionable, this does not apply to them. Only the people who are being safe and doing proper things, you know, following all the other laws that are in place already, they're the ones who are going to follow this ordinance. They're not the ones who are causing problems already. The ones that are making problems are the ones who are doing other things that are already against the law. You know? 500 feet also is an exceptionally large distance from other people's dwellings. Maybe if it were dropped down to like 100 meters, 300 feet, that would be a little more reasonable. I just feel like there's a lot of overkill in this, pardon the pun. All the other similar weapons. 500 feet for a BB gun is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, in order to create safe gun handling, those BB guns, those slingshots, those are the training tools that respectable hunters use to teach other hunters how to handle weapons safely and properly, and in a controlled environment with a controlled weapon. And I feel like this is just restricting safe handling of firearms where there should be more education in that area. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Travis Friend. I just wanted to say that this ordinance is really for safety, and as it currently sits, there's nothing that requires safety. That's great when people exercise safe, shooting, safe this, but there's nothing that requires it. And, that's a big thing. There's no mechanisms against it from happening. I think, safety is a big concern. I think BB guns, paintball guns, a slingshot, a blowgun, I think that's kind of missing the point. Maybe it needs to be modified. But I think, safety is the big thing. And there's lots of concerns with legality, but Killington just passed one in 2015, an ordinance. I think that'd be a great example. Maybe you guys could take a note from them in terms of how they got past it, what considerations they had. And ultimately, I'm just trying to look out for my family, and if there's infinitesimal chance that something's going to happen, a 1% chance, it's just not worth the risk, and it's a safety concern, and that's a big thing, and I hope everybody can understand that. I'm a gun owner, for all that, but yeah, so it's just safety, that's all it is. It's not taking away anybody's rights, it is what it is. It's safety, and let's just label it as that. We're not taking away anybody's rights. So, thank you.
Good evening, folks. My name's Bryce Nye. Live right down on River Road. A huge part of this ordinance really just seems that it's mainly going to cause hoops for responsible, law-abiding gun owners to actually get the training that they need to properly handle and keep their firearms safe. And if somebody can't go out and actually get the training, just go right out on their property and do it, and a lot of folks are probably either just not going to do it, or they're going to do it illegally, and they're just going to have more trouble piled onto them for it. So it's just going to end up punishing people that are trying to do the right thing. As far as the distances go, it's pretty ridiculous, because I've been on a good chunk of military bases that the shooting ranges that have 100 people shooting at the same time don't even meet these standards. It's a little crazy when you think about it, but that's all I have. Thank you.
My name's John Chapin, and I think I bring a little bit of an outside perspective. I've just been in town a little over a year, and I moved from Middlebury. In the past, I've read articles in the paper that have described issues going on in Bristol, something to do with there's the village and then there's the town. Is it true that there's two separate, no longer?
We have a police district and a water district. Everything else is the town.
All right, that's helpful to know. It occurred to me that there might be a compromise if there was two separate districts. There's always going to be a diversity when you have groups of people. There are people that are living in town. There are people that are living out of town. I would say the majority of the hunters are probably those that live out of town, and those that are living in town probably are not, although some have mentioned that they are hunters, they own guns, and so on. So when you have a concentration, a density of people in town, it seems reasonable to hear their concerns about safety. At the same token, when you have people that are living on 10-acre lots, unless there's instances of those houses being right next to each other and you have just 25 feet right of way in terms of, you know, two houses, even though there are two 10-acre lots, they happen to be really close to each other, those would be that sort of middle, that ground, which would be hard to kind of sort out. But by and large, people that are living out of town have a fair amount of acreage, and I don't see that there's as much concern about that. But people that are living in town, there's quite a concentration of people's proximity. So you have zoning laws for businesses, for all sorts of reasons, and as circumstances change, regulations come into place to go ahead and provide for people's safety, to provide for a reasonableness of how people all live together. And so if there was two districts, I could see that that could be a reasonable compromise to satisfy what appears to me to be two groups. Without that, I think that's the pushback when it becomes town-wide between the enforcement aspect and so on. But I can see the value of what both groups are saying. So I'm somewhat split, and I see the compromise being that potential of a village district and then this sense of if you're outside of that, the town-wide. So thank you again for holding this hearing. I think it's very valuable.
I'm Randy Benedict, and I apologize for the two incidents that happened where these people used poor judgment. But at the same time, I want to make it perfectly clear that as a gun owner myself, I totally oppose any new gun legislation, laws, or whatever anybody wants to call it, from the town, state, or federal level. It's just a termite effect to me. I've seen it in my life. We've lost a lot of gun rights. I don't know how to solve this problem, but I know that I feel bad for these situations that occurred. They should not have happened. All the people here that are against this bill and are gun owners, none of them would have fired their firearms in these two incidents. But it's going to affect them all if this goes through. And furthermore, I don't think you're going to want the Bristol Police Department to take on that responsibility, that liability, if they go to a location and give the approval to shoot their firearms there, and then something happens later on, the town's being opened up for a lawsuit. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom C. Lathrop, live down on the Hewitt Road. Avid sportsman, trapper, fisherman, feed the family with it. Been doing it here in Bristol since, I don't know how long we've been here. Before it was a country, I guess. But anyways, I've shot deer in my front yard, bear, turkeys, nasty bobcats, you name it. It's my way of life, and I want to stress one thing here is the importance of poster signs. My land is posted, and it is because of your safety as other people. Because I'm a sportsman, I'm taking my right, and I'm trying to keep it safe for other people. I have no idea, we own a lot of land, and I have no idea who's running around on there. And I personally think it's my responsibility that if my land is posted, then those people didn't get permission to be there, then they shouldn't be there. And if there's an accident someday, I could probably sleep better knowing that. But the thing is, with these unfortunate incidences, those people, if you don't want anybody in your backyard with a firearm or anything, you should put up safety zones around your property to protect yourself too. And I think a lot of people have to take common sense into effect and look at Chicago. They got all kinds of ordinances on guns and stuff, and every weekend, stacks of dead bodies, kids, women. It's crazy. Ordinances won't fix stupid, and this one, I think, belongs in the garbage.
My name is Tom Everest. I haven't been here for a whole lot of years, but I moved into Bristol. I'm a tenant. And I'd like to speak for the businesses. There's a few businesses that are actual gun dealers. And how do they test their equipment? If, say for instance, there's a few of them that I know of that have houses on either side of them within 500 feet. However, out back of their house, there's all kinds of distance. They shoot safely and responsibly. They are businesses. So I think this ordinance is just ridiculous. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Will Simmons. I'm no good at public speaking, but I need to stand up and say that I oppose this. I have a house, I have 10 acres of land. My property is 1,000 feet deep, backs up against Green Mountain National Forest. By my reckoning, a 500-foot zone, because I've got a business on one side of me and town land on the other side, means that on 10 acres of land, I couldn't shoot. And again, I back up against Green Mountain National Forest. Thank you.
I'm Dan Briggs, and I'm just speaking for the smaller landowners. Where are we gonna sight in our guns for deer season or wherever? We don't have access. A lot of people don't have access to large tracts of land to be able to sight in a gun. So you try to do what you do with what you have. You be safe and responsible. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I think Fred's itching to speak again.
I'm Rich Bedell, and I'd like the folks in here, if somebody can tell me how many people have been shot here in the last 25 years, 50 years, and who shot them? There's been one, if you can recall, and he was shot by a policeman, handcuffed with his back to him. That's responsibility. As far as the noise that people are complaining about, the firecrackers are worse than the guns are. What are you going to do about that? Thank you.
Hang on just a second, as long as there's nobody else that wants to go. I'll let you
Anybody?
go ahead.
Please. I'll wait.
How's it going? My name's Steve Kiley, and I've been on Front Porch Forum fairly frequently about this ordinance. I oppose this ordinance. I'm not an avid gun owner or someone that does practice firing on my property, but I can't understand why these two incidences that are kicking off this whole thing, the impetus of this whole ordinance, gets to control the rest of the town. It seems to me that fear and paranoia are the things that are driving this ordinance here. There are some reasons why this ordinance is possibly a good idea, but in general, it's government trying to regulate and control people. We have this over and over again in our lives. It's going to get to a point where you have to ask permission to go to the bathroom by the government before, you know, you have your freedoms anymore. Everybody seems to be interested in safety, but name me incidences where anybody in town has been shot by avid sports shooters here. You can't. I'm not aware of any. And yet you're sitting here today, trying to prepare an ordinance that's going to curtail people's activities here, and you're basing it on input from the police, which I don't understand either why the police are involved with writing public policy. They're here to enforce laws, not write public policies. Why don't you just give them judicial powers too, so that they can write the laws, they can enforce them, and then they can convict the people. You're talking about totalitarianism here. It's pretty amazing that a small town of 3,500 people is being compared to other towns like Rutland, Burlington. I don't know where you people are coming from. Safety. Safety, again, I understand that some people are, afraid when they hear gunfire, but I'm sorry, 10 minutes of sustained gunfire does not equal somebody getting murdered, a drug deal gone bad. It's just ridiculous that people that don't know much about guns and gun ownerships or firing guns are the ones that are steering this agenda. And how the heck did they get your ears to get this far to draft a draft of a law that is totally unfair and does not help the situation at all? They're looking for safety, and they say that the police have nothing to do, they can do nothing about it. The police could have done plenty about it. They could have gone to that person and talked to that person and said, look, your neighbors are concerned. You should really consider not doing this here on your property. And here's another question. Did that person repeat this incident over and over again after your incidents? Or did he like have a little bit of common sense come in his mind? So there's a lot of stuff here that's going on. I understand it's an emotional thing. I understand it's safety and all this stuff, but you cannot just ordinance something like paranoia and fear out of people. It doesn't matter where she would have lived or where these two people that are pushing this agenda here live. This ordinance is not going to change a thing. It's not going to change a damn thing. And I'm sorry that this has gotten this far. And I also want to know how many people on the select board in these meetings that have been happening for months with individuals that are for this agenda, how many people have been asked that are gun owners to come in, sit in on these meetings?
They're public meetings, so anybody can come in.
Yeah, and did you solicit people? Did you ask people to come in and
The agendas are posted.
Yeah, and the other thing,
Anybody can come.
this ordinance here, you're supposed to have it posted in 6 different locations?
Only if it passes. They're only taking public input. It may not go anywhere. They're just getting input. Yes, there are rules once an ordinance is accepted, but it's not being accepted today. So you're correct. Once it does happen, there's specific rules. So
The other thing
just
is-
a very early draft.
The 2291 and 2295. 2291, does that prohibit, it allows the town to pass an ordinance on firearm discharge, correct? 2295 also protects the rights of individuals to hunt in the town, is that not correct?
I can't quote statute off the top of my head. I'd have to look. I'm sorry, Steve.
Well, I think 2295 says that the state of Vermont regulates, allows that hunting be allowed in the town, and that the town itself cannot regulate that. So my question is, if you pass this ordinance, this discharge of firearms, what's going to prevent a person from shooting a varmint? And then when the police come to the property and say, you're in violation of this ordinance, the person can say, I'm just hunting. I'm shooting at moles, I'm shooting at foxes, I'm shooting at rabbits, and that should be the end of the discussion, should it not? Is this ordinance, does that preclude people from hunting in the town or not?
No, it doesn't. And
Right, so it's against...
I have to cut you off. You're over.
Okay, because I'm telling the truth, that's why.
No, that's not why. It's because we're being fair.
It's exactly why.
Hi, I'm Robbie Bedell. I have been here, living here for 57 years, and I can't believe this is on our doorstep. It just doesn't seem real. I have 3 daughters I raised, hunting, fishing, gardening, everything, self-sufficient, canning, everything. Okay, this is off the bubble a little bit as far as shooting. But I taught them how to shoot, archery, shotgun, rifle, muzzleloader, everything. We do it all. I live down on 116, and legally I can't fire nothing down there anymore. Okay, we do fire our crossbows, our archery gear, and rifles down there in a safe manner, on a bench, 1 round at a time. Okay? Again, this is so unbelievable. I feel so bad for these people that have experienced this, the trauma that they have. And it's unfortunate, but it comes down to this one thing. And we've heard it all night. You can't fix stupid. And it goes beyond stupid. Sometime there could be an accident with a stray. Look at over here on 116. Let's take 116 down here for an example. Now I'm going to ruin one of my favorite hunting spots here, but across the river, I can stand on this bridge right here and watch 3 buck cross the river, and that's where my tree stand is. There, now you all know. And I take deer there with my archery gear all the time. Do I rifle hunt there? No, but a lot of people do. And as far as the police force regulating this, it's off the bubble too, guys. I definitely oppose this ordinance, and I thank you for hearing me today.
Well, I'll see you open in the morning.
Anyone else?
Just quick follow-up, it's not going to take that long. Asking a question, what's the best way to be proficient at something? Practice. If you close down the town, except for permission of the chief, a lot of people would not get that practice. That will make them worse, not better shots. So that actually makes it more dangerous. There was a statement made that there were more firearms deaths in this state than car accidents. We have those numbers. The average over the last 20 years is 3 people by firearms homicides. That includes accidental shootings. The number is the safest and the lowest in the nation and one of the lowest in the world. Now, the chief giving permission, again, is he a certified range officer? Does he understand the proper way to use or build or check a range? And if he does, will the chief 20 years down the road be that same type of person? This is a lot to think about. We're not just making a law for right now. We're making a law for perpetuity. Always have to remember that. Vermont has been the safest and the lowest homicide rates for centuries. The people in Vermont have been responsible for centuries. Why try to change something that's actually working? Again, thank you for letting me speak the second time.
Ed, what was your term, a certified range, what? I'm sorry.
Officer.
Officer, sorry,
Yeah,
thank
in
you.
other words,
I was just,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Hang on, we got,
I would like to say that I found out about this meeting on Front Porch Forum, so love Front Porch Forum, but I don't think there's enough publicity about the board meetings, although most of the stuff's pretty boring. This is exciting. This is kind of exciting, but I think that there could be a little more advertisement on Front Porch Forum. I like Front Porch Forum, maybe other ways. Okay, 500 feet around a dwelling. If you do the math, pi r squared, that's 18 acres around every building in the town. How many buildings in this town, Teresa, do you know?
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess.
There's 1,600 parcels.
1,600, so that's like a lot of acres prohibited from being able to shoot a firearm nearby. That's really crazy to think about that. How much land would be off limits to shooting. Also, firearms accidents, most of them are not person to person. It's actually self-inflicted. So let's think about that. You know, this isn't like people shooting into other people's houses. This is, oh, I shot myself in the foot. Okay. Thank you.
Just like to say that people asked how it got this far. It's called due process. These people had a right to bring this up. I oppose it. That's why I'm here. That's what this forum is for. I hope it never goes away, because if you have a problem, you should be able to bring it to your town and find what the town really feels. I think the town spoke pretty highly tonight that we oppose this, but these people have a right to bring their feelings and worries to the town.
Being one of those people, thank you. I just want to address a couple of things. The first is I'm not paranoid. I'm just safety conscientious, and knowing that there are children hiking within 200 feet from where these people were shooting pistols really concerned me, and it should concern everybody here. I'm not against people who use their guns in a safe and responsible manner. I'm also not opposed to posting signs if they're effective, but time and again I've been told that the gravel pits are used for practice, for target shooting. They have been, time and again, been posted because they're too close to a school, and federal regulations have that posted. But within days, those postings are taken away. The first thing that I did when this happened is I went to somebody that I know who's an avid sportsman, and I told him what happened. And he said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I agree with you. Shooting should not be done in town. I used to live on East Street, and I wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Now, he doesn't live on East Street anymore. He lives out in the fringes of the town. And he still shoots his gun. And bravo for him. I have no problem with that. His neighbors have no problem with that. But we need to be able to give the police something to back it up, other than just a slap on the wrist. You're responsible gun owners, and I appreciate that. And I wouldn't want you to be anything other than that. I want you to be hunters. I want you to continue to go out there and enjoy yourselves. But I also want to know that a kid isn't going to be shot, or a parent isn't going to be shot hiking their trail to go have a good time that day. There's got to be a middle ground here. Every time the board was up for discussion, I sent an email out to people who were pro, people who were con, and people who hadn't commented yet, saying, please come, express your voice. Nobody came except for 2 people. So I encourage you, no, you don't have to go on Front Page Forum, but guess what? They have a great website for the town, and you can click on the Selectboard link, and you can see what is going on every single meeting, every second Monday. So 2 Mondays from now, there'll be another meeting. Go, listen to what they have to say. Listen to what people are offering to them. Listen to what people's concerns are. And then come here and be an informed community member, an informed friend, an informed neighbor, and say, you know what, I am concerned about that. Let's group together and find a solution for this. Not just, I'm against it, but let's find a mutual solution. Thank you.
I've lived here a long time. My family hunts. My father hunts. I hunted when I was a kid. But Vermont has a lot of population, a lot more than we ever had before. And the kids are growing up without any education. I had my father take me up on a mountain and learn how to shoot a .410 shotgun. You have a lot of kids growing up here that don't have the values of guns, bow and arrows. I shot a regular old bow and arrow. Now you've got compounds. Those arrows go a hell of a lot farther than when I was a kid growing up. They do a hell of a lot more damage. And so don't the bullets and the rifles. And with the increase in population in the state of Vermont and the wide open spaces, you need an education for your kids. You've got paint guns, you've got air guns. They see them as a toy. They don't see the damage. I had a son growing up. He was in the Marines. He went over to Saudi. He had never killed anything. He did when he came back. I had to put him back together again. But you have to have a respect for a weapon, and it's not a toy. You have to have a respect for a slingshot, because they can kill somebody. And the kids right now are being brought up without any education. You expect the schools to teach them, the parents to teach them. A lot of the parents don't have the wide open spaces like I did when I was a kid. So you need some kind of an education that says, okay, these are weapons. And you have to teach your children when they're younger. You have to have a place where they can go target practicing and learn responsibility. When PJ was growing up, he went down to the sand pit. When he rifle safety to get his permit to shoot his first gun. So there is none of that now. Shooting, having shooting places to go. The guy said, well, you have to have a permit. You've got to have some place where you can teach children how to use a gun safely and respectfully. Now, I have Dearly behind me. The kids don't know how far a bullet will go. And the kids are walking up behind. They don't know somebody's shooting out, and the kid doesn't know they're shooting at somebody. Where Jen lives, she's got the woods up behind them. They don't know how far the wood, they're ignorant. They're trying to learn how to shoot a gun. So they have the wide open spaces and they think it's safe. I don't think a rule that says, okay, that you want to pass is the answer. I think education is the answer. I think it says, okay, you don't discharge a firearm in the town after so-and-so time. But it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better because the population is going to increase and it's not going to decrease. And you've got now drones. Somebody's going to put a weapon on a drone.
Can I give you a name? Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble tomorrow.
Karen Whistle.
Do I need to say my name?
Might as well.
Tanya Lawyer. I just wanted to tell the board that I appreciate the fact that they took on this issue. And like Steve Heffernan said, it's our right as residents and citizens to come to you if we feel we have an issue and we want to have it addressed either by an ordinance or a law or whatever. And that's what we did. And I totally respect the people that are against it. I understand what you're saying. However, we, speaking for her and I, and some of the other people in favor of it are looking at it from a safety issue. And some of the things that were brought up was how safe Vermont is, and, you know, we're one of the safer states, and our homicide rate low. This has nothing to do with that. We are not trying to make laws to deal with, or make an ordinance to deal with a criminal activity, which would be handled by the police to begin with. All we're looking for is an avenue of redress, is if we can't get our neighbors to comply, or we can't get somebody to listen to reason and give the police, whether that's state or local, some teeth to fall back on in the event that the individual does not want to be compliant or does not want to be reasonable. And I disagree with the gentleman that said that the board can't make an ordinance. I believe you can. There are plenty of towns out there that have ordinances. And yes, there are some that have been overturned, but there were particular reasons for that. But in general, I believe the board can do that. And as far as 2295 is concerned, when I called the Fish and Game Department and asked them if a town makes a discharge of firearms ordinance, do they perceive that as regulating hunting for the general public who wants to hunt? And they said absolutely not. So I don't know where they're getting their information, but when I spoke to the state of Vermont, they don't perceive that. So I appreciate you taking at least information and having this hearing. I think that in listening to most people, one of the biggest concerns is the 500 foot limit. You know, the only thing I can suggest is maybe that could be scaled back. I don't know if that would make a difference or not, but I know in our particular situation, you know, we're talking about somebody who's as close as the building right across the street. So, you know, that's not even 100 feet probably. Thank you.
My name is Danny Grace. You know, I was sitting here listening to everybody talk, and the one thing that really comes to mind, I don't think an ordinance is going to take care of this. I mean, the incidents that took place, one guy was drunk or stoned or something. What's this going to do for him? Absolutely nothing. I had a mother-in-law that used to like to walk every day, and she had grandchildren that would hunt. And, you know, I sit here listening to everybody, and I think about her, how she used to start walking to the landfill. She'd get about halfway there. She'd hear guns going off. She'd turn around, she'd go back home. The landfill was on her property. She owned 333 acres. The bottom line to this whole thing is respect. I agree, you can't fix stupid. I mean, if somebody is out there discharging weapons inside the village limits, whatever, they should really have a damn good reason, or there should be a noise ordinance. There should be something in place, not this. I mean, you're trying to take away rights. How are young kids going to learn? We want to have children grow up and hunt here, spend money here, and keep the economy going here. How are we going to do that if we're going to take everything away from them? I just don't think it's right. In addition to that, if this does go through, I've heard a lot about the police department. We're going to have to hire more police. That's going to raise taxes. And what is that really going to do? Again, if it's somebody that's not showing any form of respect whatsoever, it's not going to stop them. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom. Tom Lathrop again. Just want to let you know that there's about 5 months of hunting seasons in this state, and the rest of the year, coyotes are legal. So legally, a person can be out there with pretty much a firearm for most of the year. And it is very unfortunate that these stupid things happen, and the ordinance will not correct the foolishness that some people get themselves into. Thank you.
to follow up with something because I think that when Tanya brought this up. It wasn't because we wanted to regulate hunting. That's what's getting lost. There's two things going on. Is when a few people on my street called the state police said they couldn't come. So maybe something needs to be done to change the way the state police can respond to calls. And I don't know if the ordinance can be adjusted for emergencies so they will come, but they refuse to come. So that's the part that I found a little scary. And if any of you were living someplace and had some crazy person shooting and you needed their help and you called and they said, we can't come, we're sorry, you have no gun ordinance, you might get a little upset. And I don't feel comfortable getting a gun out and shooting my neighbor. And I have been nice to him and I have tried to be friends with that guy and I don't know what the heck was going on with him. He was just, I don't know, crazy drunk. But I would like the police to come if I need them. And I've only called the police twice in my life and I'm 51 years old. So I hope I never do it again, but I'd like them to come the next time I call.
Brian McCormick again. Can we be informed of where actually these incidents took place? Both of them?
Yeah, one was down on East Street before you pitched down over the hill.
Yes.
And the other one was in Broadview Estates.
Okay, that answers that question. Then, did the board take into account, I know quite a few members here went to Mount Aid, did anybody inform the phys ed department over there that they're no longer going to be able to shoot the bow and arrows over there? Or the javelin, or any of that? Because you basically told them that they're not going to be able to do it in the town. So think about that. I think your ordinance that you got is, like Tom said, ought to be thrown right in the garbage.
Hang on, Matt, we got somebody in the back who hasn't spoke yet, if you don't mind. Nope.
Thank you. My name's Gary Clark. I live in the Upper Notch. I've been a resident of the town for 35 years now. I love this town. It's a great place. I come from a rural area in western New York. Bristol's very much like that. Small community. And I just want to thank you for holding this hearing tonight. And I'd like to thank all the people in here who have participated. I think it's great for the community. Having said that, I want to say that I'm opposed to the ordinance. I'm opposed to the ordinance because I have spent a lot of time reading the Vermont statutes, and I'm sure a lot of you have also. And when you look into the Vermont statutes, you see ordinance after ordinance, you see law after law that are on the books which have not served anybody well. And I believe that this ordinance falls in that category. And I say that because it doesn't solve the problem at hand. The problem at hand is the respect for your neighbor. And I believe that you can put the ordinance into effect. It does not prevent situations which these people unfortunately have experienced, because there's always someone out there who doesn't know about the ordinance or who doesn't care. So the ordinance then becomes a burden for everybody else who would not consider doing what happened here. I've hunted all my life. I shoot my guns a lot, but I do not shoot my guns without contacting my neighbor, both neighbors on both sides, and let them know that I'm going to shoot. And they've been very agreeable. And one of them is here tonight. And I just think that the solution to this problem is for all of us to go back home and and ask ourselves before you go to bed tonight, what have I done recently for my neighbor? How can I improve the relationship with my neighbor? I think if we could all solve that problem, we would solve a lot of the crime that goes on today in our society. And I hope that we'll think about that. And again, I thank you.
Hi, I'm Matt Brown again. We have representatives of our town police here, but where this instance happened is out of their jurisdiction. I don't know how many people are figuring that out, that it's not going to be our town police that are going to go out to Broadview Estates. That's a state police thing. You should be complaining not to our chief of police or even to our board. This is a state police matter. This isn't going to do any good to call the Bristol police. They would only come if they were asked to help out. So now that you're in a place where you're calling a state agency, some of this stuff should be taken up with the state too, because now you're involving them and drawing that incident into here where we don't have any control over that. When the state police come, the town police, for the most part, lose their control once the state police come. So if you're having a problem outside of our extended village where the police district is, then you need to be more vocal with the state police and see, because you're thinking that our town police is going to help, but you're not where they're going to be able to unless it's an extreme life or death thing, then yes, they'll go. But if you're calling the state police like you're supposed to, then you're talking to the wrong people. You should be talking to the troop barracks or somebody in the state, because it's a state police matter. Right up until the point where somebody gets seriously injured and they have to come right off. So you're asking us in town for help. What they need to do is, if that's the thing that you're asking for, is make a proposal to extend the police district to all of Bristol, not just the outer limits of the village. And that would take care of your response time, and you'd get a more personal thing out of that. Thank you.
Can I respond to that, or I don't find it respond to it?
Susan Hawkins. I don't feel like I've heard anybody say that it's incorrect what the neighbors have said, that unless we have an ordinance, the state police can't respond. So I hear a lot of people say, and I agree, you can't legislate stupid. You can't fix neighbors who are irresponsible, but if you have a neighbor who's irresponsible, who do you call? I haven't heard people here saying they are ready to set up an organization, and maybe that's a side shoot. Maybe there should be a group here of responsible gun owners who are willing to be the people to go in and run interference. It seems like folks who, there's being safe and then there's also feeling safe. And I can't imagine anybody who doesn't feel like they ought to have the right to feel safe in their own yard, certainly at their own house. I really appreciate the folks who have worked on this, everybody who's involved. So obviously I support this ordinance. It seems like there were thoughtful ways of getting exemptions. Maybe there are pieces that need to be worked out. The 500 feet, maybe it should be less. I was actually surprised when I looked and I thought, well, how far does a gun shoot? And was surprised that 500 feet actually isn't exactly safe. Guns shoot for more than 500 feet. And folks talk about the 18 acres, but of course there's a lot of those 18 acres overlap each other, so it's not 18 acres times however many homes we have in the state, in the town. And I guess that's most of my points. Thank you very much.
Did you want to clarify? Yeah, someone was talking about calling the state police. We did call the state police because we don't have Bristol Town Police. And they actually said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And then they put me on hold, and then they said, well, wait, we got 3 people calling from Broadview Estates, and so maybe we should send someone down. And then they only did send someone down, I don't know how long it was, because a couple of people were calling, and they told us that because there is no gun ordinance in Bristol, that they can't help us. I think that's ridiculous. I think if you call the police because there's someone shooting a semi-automatic handgun for 10 minutes, they should come. There's obviously a problem. So my problem is not with the town or the Bristol police, it's with the state police. So if we could change the state police laws, that would be great. And then we wouldn't have to do anything here. So I don't know if there's a way you can work that out. Because I would think this is not the only town that's got an issue like this. I mean, they shouldn't just say, because your town doesn't have an ordinance, we're not going to come out. If we pay taxes for the state police to come service us, and they didn't come. So I kind of want a tax refund. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So to say that I was upset, angry, disillusioned is an understatement. Tanya knows more about this stuff than me, but I know that they told us that unless our town does something, they can't help us. So we are just going through the channels, so they will come and give us the service I think we're supposed to have, which hopefully we'll never need in the future.
I think the state police probably don't take this seriously because there's a lot bigger issues in the state besides people firing their guns. They know everyone shoots, and safely, because we don't have accidents. Okay, but we need the police out there doing something like keeping the drunks off the road from killing my kids or my wife. That's way more important.
Well, this guy was
No, it's way more important. There's a lot worse problems in this state than someone target shooting. Okay, and that's what we need to have the police for.
Randy Benedict again. I think there's a common misunderstanding nationwide. The police, to my knowledge, are not under any legal obligation to respond when they're called. It happens all the time. It can't be helped because there may be other issues going on in the department that are more important. It just simply, there's no way to fix that. Unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am. Thank you.
I had a different experience with the state police about a year ago. I heard automatic weapon fire in my neighborhood, and a lot of people yelling and screaming. It sounded like World War III was going on. I called the state police. Their response time was pretty woeful, about 15, 20 minutes, but they came. And their basic response was, well, you know, this happens all the time in Vermont. People shoot weapons, they have fun doing it, and that was their response. So I thought, that's pretty interesting. A little scary, but, you know, that's what it's like here, living in Vermont. And so the point is that there's a disconnect. If the police that are very familiar with firearms and people firing and shooting things have that nonchalant attitude, then why is it that people that apparently don't know anything about weapons, that are paranoid and are afraid, and I'm sorry, that's what it sounds like to me, but maybe you're not paranoid, they have the right then to come and put ordinances together to curtail people's rights. So there seems to be a disconnect between how the police view this issue and other people that don't own guns view this issue. And I'd like to see a little bit more balance. I don't think that the police not being able to do something is the right response. But at the same time, not having ordinances written because a few people in town are afraid of the gunfire that's going on. That's the other extreme. So I'd like to see a little bit more of a balance.
You know, shooting dangerously it has the same outcome as drunk driving. It really does. You know, somebody can get killed. And we can't downplay that and make it sound like it's somebody shining bright lights at night or they're being noisy. It's, you know, it's not akin to the same thing. It's not partying. It's, you know, somebody's safety is a concern. We can't downplay that. And really, you know, I can confirm the state police can't respond. They say there's no ordinance in effect. There's no concrete response to this, you know, somebody's safety concern, and that's a big deal. That's not something little. And it's something I'm glad you guys are considering it, so thank you.
Brian McCormick again, just one more question for the board. Did you guys advise either one of them to post their land or to put up safety, you know, no firing within 500 feet at their house? Because if those signs are up under fish and game laws, if they call the fish and game department, it's against the law to fire within 500 feet of any dwelling. The fish and game would have come and taken care of the problem right then and there. That is a law. Did the board advise them of that, or did you just go ahead with this ordinance?
I don't believe we advised them of that, Brian.
So in
Because
other words,
we don't know the rules.
but you can dictate them to us now by setting an ordinance, all right? If I'm not mistaken, that's what you're doing right here. Instead of going through the other channels, which would have been to tell them to put up posted signs or safety zones and then call the fish and game department. Am I not right, Tom? There's no shooting within 500 feet, right? If you have a safety zone?
No.
It's wrong?
Yeah.
According to Fish and Game,
Brian,
that is
Brian, to us, please.
According to Fish and Game, that is right. No shooting within 500 feet of a dwelling. It's right in the Fish and Game book. So I'm just wondering why the board did not advise them to put up posted signs or safety zones. Thank you.
I can respond a little bit to that. I was aware of the posting option. And again, the posting option is for hunting. It's not for target shooting. So it was not, in my case, in effect, and it doesn't sound like in the other case it was in effect either.
No, the board did not suggest that to us. However, I took it upon myself to call Game Warden Whitlock, and he explained to me what the posting regulations were and how many feet you had to post your, every so many feet, and on the corners of your property. And you should know, Brian, that Broadview Estates isn't exactly, everybody doesn't know exactly where their property line is. And if it is not posted exactly right on your property line, it means nothing, number one. Number two, he also told me that when you post it, and you post it on your property lines, and if your property is square or oblong or whatever it is, it's no shooting or hunting within that zone. Outside those lines, they can do anything they want. It has nothing to do outside the lines, according to the game warden, Mr. Whitlock, Game Warden Whitlock. So, and as far as the ordinance was concerned, my understanding when we went to the board is they tasked the chief to look at other ordinances around the state, which my understanding was that he did. I brought him a couple of ordinances myself, and that draft is a compilation of, I would assume, several ordinances, and the board posted on their agenda for several meetings for people to come when this was going to be discussed, and like she said, there were usually very few people there, and it was the same people every week. And then it was posted on Front Porch Forum for further comment. So posting as a safety zone does not do anything outside your property lines.
Brad Bush again. For the life of me, I cannot believe even there's no ordinance pertaining to what happened at Broadview Estates. I'm just going to pick on that one because I'm not aware of the East Street one. It sounds to me like the state police didn't want to come to Bristol for some reason. If nothing else, that was reckless endangerment. You don't need an ordinance for that. You know, you don't need an ordinance for simple assault. If you told it that you thought you saw a crack cocaine pipe next to your driveway, they'd have gone by my house in about 3 minutes to get to Broadview. Now, that's just what they want to look for. Now, how did they know? Did they tell you over the phone they had no ordinance? I don't know. How would they know that right off the bat? Oh, they have no ordinance. I know that. Who knows that? And to go with the police officer saying, Bristol, okay, well, no, legally he cannot go out there because of the district. We don't pay for that, and thank you very much. It's just, I just don't understand where it's going, especially, like you said, a lot of these ordinances are pertaining to towns like Rutland, God, even heard Killington, oh my God, huh? I don't want to be compared to that. And let's see, there's something else I'm going to say, but I'm just against it. And I hope everybody else is.
Just so we're clear, the state police, when I called them that night, they said initially there's nothing we can do because Bristol does not have a firearms discharge ordinance. They eventually sent a trooper, and my understanding was the trooper went over there and discussed it with the individual and left. I subsequently called and spoke with the sergeant on duty, who indicated to me that if Bristol had a firearms ordinance, they would respond because we're outside the police district, and they would write a ticket based on Bristol's ordinance, if they had an ordinance. They suggested we go to the town and potentially see if we could get an ordinance passed. In addition to that, they subsequently did an investigation regarding reckless endangerment, and my understanding from the trooper was it was sent to the state's attorney's office, and the state's attorney failed or declined to prosecute reckless endangerment. I filled out a written statement, another witness filled out a written statement. So we followed all the steps to try and address this. And they even contacted Fish and Game to see if they could find anything in the Fish and Game laws to try and cite the individual based on that, and that didn't pan out. So I think we, in our situation, did everything we were supposed to do, and our last recourse was to come to the town. So I hope that answers all the questions about state police. They didn't refuse to come. In my case, when I spoke to them, they said there's nothing we can do when we get there, but we'll send somebody. Sure.
Have you had an incident, has that neighbor fired his service revolver or whatever revolver that was since that incident?
Not while I've been in the development, not to my knowledge.
Hi, Steve Fielding. I live in Broadview Estates, and I do oppose this. I think the limits are too far, but I do want to say about 10 years ago, we passed we have development meetings twice a year. We passed a motion that firearms will not be discharged within the development limits. And that was motion was made and seconded, but the individual that did this, of course, he was drunk. He's pretty new to development. It wasn't a bylaw change, whether it would have anything to do with that or not. I have no idea.
Did it pass?
And we didn't pass it as a bylaw change, we passed it as a motion.
Okay.
but we never amended the bylaws. But whether that would have anything to do with this situation with police coming or not, I don't know.
And what did you say your last name was?
Fielding?
Fielding, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
Well, if we don't have anything else, I'm going to close the hearing because we have a bunch of other business to tend to tonight. I'd like to thank you all for being very respectful and for getting along with your neighbors here. Really appreciate it. It is what makes this community what it is. And we'll work through this and find something that works for everybody. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you at this time.
Thank you.
In the Selectboard meeting minutes from the last one that proposed this act, said that we were going to go at the next August.
You did say that, yes. You did say it'll be on the agenda. You did say that. Right. That it would be on the next one, when it would be August 7th. We did say it.
It will be on the agenda when we're going to vote, yes. Is that what your question is?
Last minutes, it was on.
Closer. Speak to the
Last minutes I looked at that meeting, and they said a date. After August 7th.
I'm not sure that's going to happen now. But my guess is it will be certainly a discussion. If they're not prepared now to vote on anything August 7th, they're discussion. You were right. You read exactly right.
Can you post that on Front Porch Forum, have Pam do that, and make sure people know, so that there's people at that meeting as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. I have somebody's, DePino, I have his email. DePino.
Okay. I think I have mine too, but you
Yep, and I'll try to remember. The best thing for you to do would also be to check the town's website, just in case I forget. Okay.
I'd like to thank all of you.
It's nice to meet you.
I've been to a lot of towns.
Thank you. It was very nice of you to say.
I just texted back too.
Yeah. I know it is hard. Yeah, I tried to. Yeah. I know it's fine. I will. Yeah, it'll be by 8:39. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and I wrote down every single person in the order that they spoke. So yeah, it'll be like 8:39 o'clock. Yeah. Okay. What? Yes, they're still in a meeting.
Yeah, we're still in the meeting. You guys want to kind of circle up so we can hear each other? Well, maybe in an outline.
This little table could. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this whole table. Yeah, so that if anybody wants to, they can sit here.
All right, I was just gonna sit over there for you. So you can like here. I'm gonna shut this off.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor. Jesus, that was kind of rude of me.
Well, it's hard to hear. These guys that were gonna test people. There, sorry, I had to shut that off.
Yeah, we should have invited them all to stay.
Well, I did kind of a brief for each one side.
And if you can't hear, we can certainly, it's hard to hear up here.
Can you hear me now? I can hear you now.
It's funky.
Did you text Brett and say, come now?
I think somebody did.
You text Brent.
I did. And I called him, he said he's gone.
All right, well, are you still rolling here? Okay. Brett's not here yet, but we'll do public forum.
Can we get enough of that?
It's on the agenda. I have to do it. Jimmy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Nothing.
Anything you'd like to briefly discuss?
No, not today.
Thank you.
Motion to approve sole source purchase of $32,000 worth of winter sand from Rathrum Sand and Gravel.
Is that still working with glasses?
No, I shut it off.
And
Hang on.
$50,000 worth of salt from Cargill.
So moved.
Second.
Who's, oh, it's Ted? Second.
Yes.
Michelle, shoot him out. Did you ask him to go in the lobby? Yeah, thank you.
Just take it outside.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to sole source purchase our winter sand and salt. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to authorize Conservation Commission application to Otter Creek Natural Resources Conservation District for $2,600 in trees and shrubs to be planted on the Saunders River access. No matching funds required.
So moved.
Is that Joel?
Yep. Do I get a second? Second. Any further discussion? I believe they were in and talked to us about this.
Isn't this the second or third time they've tried to plant trees there?
Yeah, at least
I
the
thought
second. At least the second.
And hope we don't get a bunch of rain and it all washes them away again.
That's right.
Okay.
But it's not costing the town
Right,
anything.
yeah, I know.
Any further discussion?
It's just
Boy,
Brett saying
messages
he's
are going
in.
around.
He must have texted everybody.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to turn the town teal for the month of September in support of ovarian cancer awareness.
I think you get to sign that, Peter, says mayor or town official.
We'll let Jimmy sign it.
Just make the motion.
I'll make the motion, assuming she follows all the guidelines we've given her before.
Yeah.
And they come down at the end of the month.
They've been really good about taking them down, yeah.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
This is an all volunteer effort.
Yes. Yes, it's the
I
release.
just wanted to bring it up.
Yep.
And put it on the.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Mayor or town official, jeez.
Don't let that
Sure
go
you
to
don't
our
want to
head.
sign, Jimmy?
What do you want me to
Oops, sorry.
My bad.
Motion to authorize the town treasurer to open a new account at the National Bank of Middlebury with Jen Myers and Pam, I can never. Correa as signers.
You did talk about this last time, but apparently the bank wanted something specific in the
Same
minutes.
sign duties as all existing National Bank of Middlebury accounts. It's okay.
Pick your choice, who wants the first or second that, Ted or me? We're gonna go with Ted.
Now, what were you saying, Teresa? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, it was my bad, I didn't read the rest of it, just that we did talk about this at the last meeting, but the National Bank of Middlebury wants some specific language, and that's why it's worded that way.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Okay.
Brett, we're not real conducive, but you can come on down.
Yeah, just grab a chair, somebody moved it.
Sean.
First, before Brett gets started, he wanted you guys to see this. He got one, and I got one too, when Congressman Welch came. It's a picture, they went over and ended up doing a nice little piece over there at the BFD.
They did, not on us.
No, it was about,
Happened to be at
Had a
the
new fire station they wanted.
right place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
No, they were here in town to visit some local businesses. They specifically wanted to speak to Therese, members of the staff, and get a tour of the fire station. And of course, while we were there, reporters showed up, but they were there for other business. Apparently it had something to do with the firing of the FBI
Comey,
director.
the FBI director, that's right, I was trying to remember what it was about.
So you got
Yeah, it actually looked
high
like
level education.
we're not being filmed right now.
Yeah, we
Yes,
are.
yeah.
So careful what you
There
say.
you go. So Brett gave us, or gave me,
Before we move on, you voted yes for that?
Yes.
Yes, because you, okay.
so Brett did drop me off the Homeland Security, the grant summary form. So it wasn't in your packet, but I do have it, but I'm sure Brett could hit the highlights to tell you what
Sure. So, the town of Bristol Fire Department specifically has been the beneficiary of many Homeland Security grants in the past. And one of the great things about the Homeland Security grant program here in the state of Vermont is currently there are no matching funds required. So what you have in front of you in the amount of $8,000 is the request for some specialized equipment to assist special rescue teams, specifically swiftwater rescue teams, and plus some of this equipment can be used when we assist teams on a mountaintop and rescues. But so this grant is specifically, if you haven't had a chance to read it, so Special Operations Water Safety Capabilities Enhancement. So we in the town of Bristol, we do not have any capabilities when it comes to swiftwater rescue. We are, for all intents and purposes, at an awareness level. Fortunately, half of the fire department who's been through the Firefighter 2 program has been through training and assisting special rescue teams, which this talks specifically about. But as you know, we have some very popular swimming holes here in the town of Bristol, and we frequent those areas, once or twice a year to assist Bristol Rescue Squad with the removal of a patient who, slipped on the rocks. But there has been circumstances in the past that have been much worse. People have climbed the rocks, slipped, fell. They're in an area that they need to be retrieved by someone or a group of people with a special set of skills, which again, I want to emphasize, the town of Bristol Fire Department does not have those type of skills. And of course, there's always those fatal incidents, as we had experienced here in the town of Bristol just a couple of years ago when a swimmer up at Bartlett's was unfortunately swept away and lost his life. But again, even that incident involves the town of Bristol Fire Department working with these special rescue teams. And in order for us to assist them, we have to have some level of personal protective equipment. In order for us to even be near the water, exactly 10 feet from the edge of the water, we're required to wear personal flotation devices, life jackets, helmets, and of course you always want to promote proper footwear and things of that nature. So the $8,000 is to purchase 15 or 16 sets. I think it was 16 sets of minimum equipment of helmets, personal flotation devices, proper footwear, and throw bags. Throw bags are ropes where you from the shoreline can throw a rope out into the water and assist with a rescue if needed. Because unfortunately, Vermont's rural population and scarce availability of special rescue teams, our closest, which we're actually very fortunate now, is the Middlebury Technical Rescue Team. But, when we request that resource, they're still a good 20 minutes out after they, gather at their fire station, grab their equipment, and get here. So there are some things we as firefighters can do at a very basic level with minimal personal protective equipment can do to help the situation. So again, I'm here tonight to request your approval, spending up to $8,000 should we be approved by the Homeland Security Grant Program here in the state of Vermont to purchase this awareness level of equipment.
And there's no matching funds required.
No matching funds. I'd really like to emphasize that. To be quite honest with you folks, if there was matching funds, I would not be sitting before you. So.
Make a motion to allow the fire chief to enter in a grant with Homeland Security with no matching funds.
Actually, we should change that. It's Kevin, you cannot apply for.
Thank you. So if you look down on the back side, page 2.
We don't have it.
Because it came after the packets went out, so it's too late.
So on page 2, where it has the amount, you'll see the name of the grant applicant is Assistant Chief Kevin LaRose.
So Joy,
I make a motion that we apply for the grant with the name of the grant applicants.
My apologies, I should have stated that at the beginning. I was submitting this on behalf.
We're submitting this on behalf of the grant applicant. Second Assistant
Because I work
Chief
for the
Kevin
Department of
LaRose.
Public Safety, I can't.
Kind of a conflict?
A little bit.
I second. No matching funds.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you. And then, in addition, would you like me to continue?
Yeah.
So we have two of our cadets from our department cadet program who just recently graduated from high school have both submitted their resignation letters last week. Both of these young people, one of them, Victor Hinojosa, he is going on to Norwich University as a cadet, so he obviously has a workload in front of him, his academics and his time as a cadet, so his immediate future with the fire service will be put on hold. He was disappointed he had to go, but he certainly knows why he has to move on at this time. And then the other individual is Delana Levitt. Delana is also going on to pursue secondary education in, well, I guess it's undecided at this time, but she is taking college courses this fall and is also moved to the town of Lincoln full-time. And so in our cadet program, when we have an individual who lives in multiple communities, you know, just depending on a family situation, we permitted them to work in both areas, but as a full member of the department, as you know, we have to be a town of Bristol resident. So, but anyway, the good news is Delana is going to pursue joining the Lincoln Volunteer Fire Company. So, with
Has
her
Victor
father.
said anything about joining Norwich? Because they run, the students in Norwich.
Well, right now, Victor is at the Boy Scout National Jamboree, doing some teaching down there, I guess.
Well, I'd
Not
make
surprising.
a motion to accept their resignations with regret and wish them all the well in their endeavors, Victor and Delana.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
And maybe the board or send just a note to them, or our clerk.
I'm going to send a note, Harry. I just can't do it until you guys make it official. So,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
that's all I have.
I have something for
Yes,
you.
sir. You have a camera for me?
Any update on engine one?
No.
Okay.
Ask me tomorrow.
Nothing for sure yet.
Nothing for sure. So, as far as cost, the cost is not going up. We're hoping it's going to go down a little bit due to some fact finding, you know, as they got into it. So perhaps being able to refurbish some existing parts, which is good news. But as I stated to our town administrator today, I did not want to say anything tonight, but you brought it up because I don't want to give anybody, you know, false hope. You approved a certain dollar amount, and obviously it's the goal to spend less. And it sure looks like we may be in a situation that we might spend a little bit less.
As long as they don't find anything else, it's kind of that,
So,
you know.
like anything else, once you truly get into it, they can determine what could be refurbishing.
Well, especially with the age of the vehicle, you never know what they're going to find.
But, all right, well, thank you, folks.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Yeah, sorry to-
Have a safe trip.
Yes, I will.
Leave tomorrow?
I leave Wednesday.
Noon sharp.
See you there.
All right. Motion to authorize town administrator to sign closing documents for the sale of 18.8 acres to Stan Livingston.
So moved.
It's 18.08.
18.08. Sorry.
Second.
Boy.
Should that say?
It'll be written in the minutes, right?
Should that say of town?
You want to give them more than what we told them we're going to give them?
It's true. What's your question, Joel?
Should that say town land?
Well, I don't
Except for
think the
selling
town
18
administrator could sell Joe Boovier's land.
Well, just.
I would tomorrow.
She says she's selling 18.08 acres, just to say where it is and what it is.
That's because we discussed it last time.
And I think the closing might be August 11th.
I think everybody understands that.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to authorize purchase of up to $2,000 from the Technology Fund for 1-year subscription to NEMRIC, cloud-based access, any other associated fees and new computer for treasurer's office via state contract.
So, it's a lot of lapses. Yeah, her computer died. And so we obviously had someone come in and look at it, and he's like, look, you have a virus, your hard drive's gonna die. So she has to get a new computer. And obviously that's what we have the technology fund for. We have been using Peter Ryan's computer as a server, but now finally NEMRIC has come up with a cloud-based system, which is gonna work really well, I think, for us. And it's $10 per person per month. And so since we haven't budgeted for it, it's something we could take out of the technology fund and then budget for in the future. We'll also be going to Office 360, and eventually all departments will go to Office 360. And it makes file sharing a lot easier because, as you know, we're not networked. So the $2,000 would more than cover this because she didn't need a monitor, didn't need a keyboard, and we went through the state contract. So
the 2,000 is both. It's the new computer and the cloud-based.
Yes.
And
Yep.
this will allow
For
something
NEMRIC,
happens.
it's not Office 360, it's just for NEMRIC. And the cloud-based system for NEMRIC, which takes the pressure off from Peter Ryan's computer, which is good. And then it would give her a new computer as well.
But it would also allow us that if something happens to her computer, she can go to somebody else's and access it. Right now,
Absolutely.
she can't do that. She doesn't
Right.
have access to
And what
something.
happened was because her computer was down, so then for a while Peter Ryan's computer was down, which meant none of us could access NEMRIC. And obviously we all use it for zoning, the town runs off of that software. So I think it's really good that they finally have found a system and it's a reasonable fee, and we'll eventually go to Office 360, but Jen and I discussed that and think we could all manage to eat that out of our own respective budgets.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to authorize select board chair to sign loan servicing agreement with Community Bank for the revolving loan fund agreement renewed by the town attorney.
Yep.
Reviewed by the town attorney.
So I came to me from Dan Wormy. It's funny, we've done business with what was the merchants for so long with the revolving loan fund, but we never had any written agreement. So then when they switched over to Community Bank, Dan was like, hey, Treese, I don't see this. Do you see one? I'm like, never heard of one. Pete, Ryan had, and we talked about it. So they sent a proposed draft. There was things about it I didn't like. I changed and then sent it on to Kevin Brennan. Then it went back to Community Bank. Then it came back to us. And so both Kevin, myself, we thought this agreement was fine.
You didn't tell Dan, oh yeah, we got one of those, we're not gonna share it with you,
Yeah.
you should have your own copy.
I mean, I
That
looked
answers my
everywhere.
question. I was like, why are we doing this now?
I think that, you know what, at the time, I'm sure that when they went to, when the town did it, when Penny went to open that account, I'm sure they probably didn't need one. They probably just opened the account. and
Bigger
let them do
bank out of
business
state.
back. Yeah.
So my question on the fees, is that passed on to the applicant? You know, it says it's $350
No.
per service loan, so that's the town of Bristol.
Yeah,
that has to
it only costs us about $36 a month to maintain that revolving loan fund. So it's what we pay now. And we're not, we had looked in the past at somewhere else, and they've given us a really great deal because they do all the billing. So they do everything. We send them the loan documents once they're executed. They bill, they collect, so it was good.
So we don't charge the people who apply that $350 per month?
No, that's what their interest rate. I mean, if you charge them 4% or whatever, it's gonna come out of that. I can fill in the blanks if they agree.
What's your pleasure?
Oh, so moved.
Won't everybody jump at once?
So I'll second.
All right, any further
Yeah,
discussion?
question, was this put out with the other bank?
No,
And I'll look at the camera, I am an employee of the National Bank of Middlebury. I'm not in the loan department or the management. But was this a draft ask for the National Bank of Middlebury, who's a local
No.
Addison County Bank?
They
And
had
Community
no,
National now is owned by a prominent, big bank in Massachusetts, out of state, so I've just asked.
well, no, I'm just saying, there was no,
Never had one before, so we didn't, I get
right,
that.
so I didn't know, so when they came and asked us to do one, we've had such a great relationship with them as a local bank, just right here, that it never crossed anybody's mind to put it out, because they've been really good about handling the stuff, and this isn't forever. I suppose you could try it, and if we start with the new people and have issues, then we could change it, but they agreed to, you know, the rates and the same rates and everything.
Okay.
So, but I think that's something to think about, Joel, is to see, monitor it in about a year from now, just to see, talk to the town treasurer and see how it's going. If she feels she's not getting the same level of service, they could absolutely put it out.
Okay.
But National Bank, for the record, since we're talking about this again, we do the majority of all of our banking with the National Bank of Middlebury. We do some borrowing a little bit with our capital funds go to People's Bank, but all of our day-to-day operations, tax money, all that, checking account and all that is with the National Bank of Middlebury. Okay. So.
Spread it around.
Well,
Spread
you
the
know,
wealth.
we do.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Maybe if I look with my glasses, I'll be able to see where Jim's supposed to sign.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Motion to sign an agreement between the Select Board and independently elected officers, Jen Myers, Peter D. Ryan, Valerie Hanson, and Wendy Truax, to be bound by the personnel policy. What does this stem from?
So it's part of the personnel policy that you guys adopted. They'd signed it before, but since you made an addendum, made corrections and amended the select board policy, this is an agreement, because as you know, that they don't have to agree to go along with the town personnel policy because they're elected officials. But they are saying that they will, that they agree to follow this, that they have a copy of it, that they've been given an opportunity to ask questions, that the town reserves the right to add or amend or discontinue the provisions of the policy, and that they agree that they understand and agree that they will comply with the provisions of the personnel policy. So that's all. I mean, it's something that you've done. It's in the personnel policy that you adopted.
So other than Jen, the other three are elected by the public?
No, I think that they're considered, I think that the reason she put them in is because she's, in the addition to the above, is what it says, Jen Myers agrees that her statutory assistants who hold the position of X will be subject to town's personnel policy, except the provisions on performance evaluations, discipline, and termination, which do not apply to them. So there's a special section in the policy you guys adopted for statutory assistants, because she can have as many assistants as she wants, and we can't stop her from that. You can set their pay rate. That's how that works.
And we set that budget to set those.
Right, yeah, I know, but if they all agreed to work, she could have 20 if they all agreed to work for, X amount of dollars
Part
an
of
hour.
her
It's kind of one of
salary.
those weird flukes in the statute, so. But in return, said statutory assistant will receive any benefits they're eligible for as outlined in the policy. So you signed this already, but since you amended, she thought she should sign it again. So moved. And we'll pass it around.
I heard you whisper, but did you?
Well, I'm waiting for a second. And
I
Waiting
thought.
for a second and then you
Okay, second.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were doing.
So, if we have, the board has incidences where they're not happy with, through the public's comment period, not like tonight, but a comment period, that some of these assistants are doing this or that. I mean, Pam, we have through you, we could say, or, not the listers, but the road crew or the police department, we could say dismissed. Last resort, but we couldn't dismiss, she.
You cannot dismiss Jen, you cannot dismiss Peter
No, not Jen,
Ryan.
I get
No,
that, she's
but you
elected.
can't do Peter Ryan, you
Because
cannot do Wendy Truax, or
They're-
Val Hanson in the role of assistant treasurer, because
They're
they're
her
her
employees.
statutory assistants, yep.
What?
You cannot.
Their check on Friday says the town of Bristol.
So is
it's
Jen's.
state
I know,
statute.
but she's an elected official like we are.
They're considered statutory assistants under the law.
So under the law, she can have as many assistants as she
She can.
deems necessary?
Yep, but you set the pay rate.
So we
So
control
the
the
pay rate
purse
could be
strings.
$1 an hour.
So
Well, yes and no. I mean, we could go minimum wage, but she could have 20 people.
But that all comes out of her budget.
But then why
Unless
are
they've
we-
changed the statute, it's good. I mean, obviously, she wouldn't last long, and you would run someone against her, and there's a lot of things that would happen, and they wouldn't do that anyways, because you have such a budget. But yeah, it's one of those crazy things in statute.
So why
Well,
did?
we've never run into that before, obviously, nor would you, but, because you have a good relationship with everybody.
Then why, since I've been on the board, we've approved Val to so many hours, we've approved Wendy for so many hours and hired him. Then why do they come to the board? Why do they come to the board?
Because you need to set their pay rate. And because you have a good relationship with the treasurer's office, and she's, you know, saying this is.
I'm
what
not
she
saying
wants.
we don't, I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying
That's
that
why
at
those
all.
positions were never advertised for, Joel. They were, she could do whatever she wanted, whether she advertised or handpicked them, or, so she's just she's saying I'm hiring them and I need to set the wage. I know it's crazy, I'd have to look the statute up for you, but I'm telling you I know because I was town clerk, but you have a good relationship with people, and so obviously that would never come to pass. So you want me to find that statute? I will do that, and I'll let you know next
I mean,
time.
we're asking all the rest of our employees to go, even, you know, to be bounded by the personnel policy.
And they're agreeing to be bound by the personnel policy, so that's great.
That's what signing this is doing.
So,
Right now, they're not.
okay, so,
Jen isn't, Peter isn't, Val isn't when she's working for Jen,
and
and Wendy
but now
is.
they're going to be.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I'm fine with that then. But they could have as many, I'm not so sure I'm fine with that.
Well, I know.
You ain't got no say
We
in
have no
that.
say in that.
But I'll find the statute.
Anything further?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right?
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I'm not aware of the state amending that ordinance, but I will look.
Motion to approve the minutes of the July 10th meeting.
So moved.
Any errors or omissions?
I haven't seen it.
Great
Good
job.
job, Tasha.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Okay, I thought you had second.
Authorize accounts payable warrants and liquor license. Any questions there?
There's no liquor licenses tonight, but there's 2 warrants, Joel, if you could give Tasha.
Right, there's, Tasha, the first one is $126,765.91. I have a question.
Well, can you tell her that amount?
Give her the
please?
number first.
Second one is $156,787.85.
And why are there 2?
Because one is last year and one is this year for the fiscal
The
year.
first one's just last year's, right?
The 126 is this year and the 156 is last year.
Okay, thank you.
You will.
I have a question on, I guess it's the one from this year, 7/24.
Well, tell me what the bill is, or what's the?
It's the JWDE Ryan for the firehouse.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, because, oh, snap.
Some of that was warranty work, though.
Some of it was, well, the warranty work, you can see where he credited it, but there's, I can't, the threaded pipe on the,
Yeah, put the
something
bulb
was
out.
dripping,
Right,
and I'm
I
like,
realize that, but
I
the-
can picture it, but I cannot tell you what.
But then the third one is repipe the eyewash drain station to a tune of about, $130.
Yep,
That was part of the, the original drain. Checklist. The original drain was draining back under the floor.
Yep,
Back into the wall.
it was,
And they
yep.
said, well, we're gonna cure this, instead of extending it, being a tripping hazard, we're just gonna re-drain this into the drain for the washer. I
Right.
don't think we should be paying for that. That's
Yeah,
what-
I'd have to ask Brett, I can't remember what
Well,
the
that's what we're-
conversation was. No, I know that, Joel, and I remember looking at it, and I know that Brett said we were paying for that, and I can't remember why.
Now you lost the spot.
Yeah, I did. I gotta find, one be after that, kindergarten.
Yeah, Ryan should get paid for that, but Naylor and Breen should be paying it. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
Nell and Bridge should pay Ryan's.
Right.
Well, it was brought up under the, when we did the walk around July,
The final.
Yeah.
in the 1st of June, the last of June of last year.
So I'll ask
And it-
why.
And it water doubled back under the floor, and I said, we can't have this, or under the wall. And they said, well, we're just gonna repipe that then, we'll put that under the punch list.
Yeah, and I can't remember, Joel, what Brett said, so I apologize. I will find out though.
Tell Timmy Ryan, Joel, I wanna pay that bill.
That's exactly what I'm gonna tell him. So,
He's a
but
bit
can I
low.
see that one? Where is it? Oh, it's on this one? I'll write
It's
on
on
it.
it.
Joel,
Yeah, right
when-
there.
I'll write on this when Peaker's done, so I can let her know.
Yeah, you did. You can't complain anymore, you signed it.
No, I gave you my paperwork underneath there.
Oh, okay.
Right there.
Oh, now don't take mine.
Nope.
All right. Select board concerns, Michelle. Oh,
Can I just cut you off before someone goes on about the Munson issue that we had today?
You took care of it?
Yes,
You're over there grading it tonight?
I did take care of it, yes.
It was bad.
I know, okay. I just wanted you to know, and Bruce, thank you very much, because we got a couple calls. I called, Ben Care, the gentleman on scene. He wasn't there because they closed up for the day, called Green Mountain Engineering, got Alan, because I was looking for Ben. Alan said, I'll talk to you. I told him what was going on. And he said, okay, we'll call Munson, we'll get him back right now. And then it was so bad, I called Lieutenant Nason and said, can you please go to West Street? Because I had someone from the firefighter was in the building, witnessed a guy in a truck blow past 3 people that were going about a mile an hour trying to get through there. And my car sits slow to the ground, and I saw Lieutenant Nason and Officer Odiel at the firehouse line. I was like, I thought I'm gonna bottom out here in a minute. So it was horrible, and at 5-ish, 5:15, something like that, they were on site with a roller and a loader, and one guy jumping out of the truck who should have been flagging. So one guy, I saw him pull over, and it looked like he came, but did they ever have 2 flaggers, or? Yeah, it was a
they left it.
Plus.
What
What
can
can
we do I do have Jeff's home
not
phone number.
happening
Yeah.
again?
So anyways, so
Question.
What can be done about having that not happen again? That was
There's
just
we're
beyond.
gonna
nothing-
find out tomorrow.
The way, I'll tell you right now, the way the weather is and the fact that we have our storm drains plugged so that we don't get silt going in the river, that water sits in the road, and if it rains like that again, you're gonna have the same problem. There's nothing you can do about it short of paving it.
I know that Peter Bouvier, when he was here, then he went to get something, came back, and he said that when he left, they were kind of dressing it up, and he thought that despite the rain, it would hold up, but they only did one section of it. That was his opinion of what he saw. So I did call and you know, but there was no signage. It didn't say rough road ahead. It didn't say, there was nothing.
Well, it was like that last Tuesday.
A woman
It was
hit it,
rough
her
road.
car actually turned
I
90
didn't go through
degrees
the
on the road as I was going through it. It was unbelievable.
Did you see that? No? Okay.
It was
All right.
before you got there.
Yeah, well, as soon as we got multiple complaints, that's when I called Lieutenant and said, you gotta speak, it's gonna be crazy over there. So, anyways, and
So skip
obviously,
that.
yeah, I figured we didn't need everybody to comment, we just address it right out of the gate.
No, I wasn't gonna comment, I didn't go through there today.
Okay. Well, you know, that's the thing, I'm surprised
Going
that
behind.
why people aren't bypassing it by going down Lover's Lane and up South Street. Then they could bypass at both ends of the day.
Do you have out-of-towners like me that go through?
Yeah.
I almost hit someone, like 3 cars coming out about 5 o'clock.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Because the street came
I
up on
saw
the
him,
pavement.
but he was further down, but then the flagger was in the middle of all of it. And so he wasn't further back a little bit. There was no sign, so I was coming up. 3 cars were in the middle of the road. And I couldn't get, I almost hit them, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure they understand what MUTCD standards mean, but they will. We'll figure it out. But anyway, so we handled it, and I thank you so much, Lieutenant, for helping, because it was definitely a safety issue.
All right. Now, don't talk about Munson.
No.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to thank the road crew for mowing the sides of the lawn. It needs to be done, it makes it a lot easier to see.
Roadside.
And that's it.
Roadside.
Yeah.
It has to be the law.
Sides of the road.
With the rest of the board's permission, I'd like to start. I've talked to Pete Lovier, he's got a wheel. I'm going to start measuring the sidewalks and try to put together a long-term proposal of replacement. But I don't want to go out on my own and just do that. So with the approval of the rest of the board, I know Ted walks nearly as much as I do. So
I got an extra wheel. Ted can take one wheel, you take another.
Just coordinate what roads.
Dog. There you go.
it's going to be a very subjective evaluation.
Have at it.
It's all right by me.
And I don't have a timeline on it either.
Yeah. The good thing is, so I'm sure Peter told you, certainly, he has Mike Menard is good about it, because if he does the majority of the sidewalk
Yeah.
plowing, because there's some times when apparently you're going along and all of a sudden,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he said it used to be really rough in the old tractor.
But some of them are 5 or 6 inches.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Well, that's
My
great.
sister went down this week.
Thank you.
Walking on the sidewalk.
Anything else?
No.
Ted?
Okay, this has to do with 4th of July and the park. And I wanted to tell Therese about what I had discovered. And so when I typed this up, I found that I was having trouble communicating. My PC was having trouble communicating. Take one and pass it down. Oh, okay. Take one and pass it down. Because my PC was having trouble communicating with the printer. I got it straightened out and I forgot to clean out the queue. Left the room, and when I came back down, there were 7 copies of this sitting in the tray. So everybody gets one.
Nice.
And what it has to do with issues on the park with respect to electricity. For the past several decades, on the 3rd and 4th, I spend way too much time dealing with issues over there. And there's some damage, there's some dangerous stuff going on. The rest of it has to do with the 4th of July committee making it mandatory that people who are going to use electricity use grounded extension cords and try to match whatever their load is going to be with the load that the outlet can take. There's a bunch of stuff going on over there that really isn't good. And so Therese sent a message back saying, bring this up before the select board on 7/24, because I've had some issues too.
Yeah.
Yeah, evidently you got shocked on the park.
Well, when before the breaker to the fountain was GFI, if you got a little wet, which you did when you had to wait stuff out of the fountain and you just stood just right, got a little
tingle.
Yeah, you paid attention. I was like, oh yeah, gotta fix this. So I did fix it and had a GFI breaker put in. But what would be possible is if Ted was willing, we could get a couple estimates from a couple different electricians if Ted was willing to meet with said electricians on the park.
So moved.
Well, it needs to be done right.
Get it cost.
It needs to be done right.
Yeah.
And safely.
The really interesting one is the one with the conduit is like this high off the ground, so somebody with a weed whacker could just cut right through the power cord.
So I was thinking Eastview and then maybe,
Smith McLean.
Smith McLean.
Okay. But there's another gentleman who lives on Irwin. I've heard of him.
I can't think of his name right now.
I know, something Irwin. I apologize if you're listening. Anyway, so that's somebody else. So that would be 3.
Chris and Kevin and
Well, they're gonna know Smith McLean and whatever
You
Mr.
do those
Irwin's
three?
first name is, which I will think of. Okay, Eastview, Smith McLean, and Irwin Electric. Whatever his first name.
What is it called?
Eastview Electric, Smith McLean, and you can just write Irwin because
Where's Irwin's boy?
I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Eli.
Oh, there you go. That's it.
Thank you.
I didn't know he was an electrician.
Okay, so, do you want me to call them, Ted, and set you up appointments? Or do you want to, okay.
Anything else, Ted?
No, the only other thing was the road, West Street. And that's already been overly addressed.
Yeah, I walked by there while it was raining. I think there must be a few phone calls coming.
People were hopping right up and down.
Oh, it was really bad.
And I haven't checked the voicemail yet, so I can only imagine what that
Joy.
would be like tomorrow.
Joel?
Couple, three things. The hydrant on Pine Street by Beulah Sargent's, or was Beulah's, it was Ted Sargent's place, crossing Stetson's.
Yeah, it's still Teddy Sargent's, yeah.
It's got box all growing all the way
No,
around
they're
it.
gone.
Oh, they're gone? You cut those, did you?
I didn't cut them, but they were gone
okay.
yesterday. Yeah.
And then, I see in size notes here, they're gonna come around and vacuum a few of the,
They did.
can we make a list of those? Because they own that vac truck, and of course, every one they come out and do, they charge us.
Right.
And I like to see it, it doesn't come down here until they got a list of them.
The reason, yeah.
We don't come down and get a bill from Heinsberg and down and back for one or two. We have a,
Right. I had them do the ones within the project.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we probably build it. And then, speaking of the project and not the road, we talked about this a couple of years ago when we wanted to do that, was the amount of water we were losing on that street, and that's why we're doing that project, was we had a report, I don't remember where it is now, it's not in my possession, but probably downstairs somewhere, how many of the lines to the residents on that street that's gonna get replaced were old galvanized lines. And we were going to try to have a program where we would pull in new copper lines.
Yeah, and I did.
To fit to the new, and I'd like to see us at least offer that with a payment plan and say, if that copper line pulls through to it, Lucy's place on there, and they say, we can take so much out of your bill every quarter to pay for it. I'd like to see copper lines put on the new lines and not, they may have a brand new 8-inch going down through there and an old galvanized line that's leaking 25, 30 gallons a minute before the meter.
Well, we had asked, one of the things we had done in a couple of the past projects was send letters to the homeowners and say, hey, we're gonna have a contractor out here. If you'd like to have your service line upgraded, now's the time, because there may be, the equipment has already been mobilized and there may be a savings there. It was not something that we could do this time. Munson, they weren't really willing to do that this time. And I have to say, we've done that umpteen times and no one has ever taken advantage of that. But you're correct, several years ago, we did talk about offering people the right, if they didn't have the money themselves, to upgrade from a galvanized to a copper line. And then, I think we had talked about it in abstract terms about seeing if they could deduct it off their water bill. It never went any further than that. Currently, with the rate increase that you've had, my recommendation, Joel, would be wait and see how you make out this next fiscal year before you start a new program to see if you're making up the water loss on West Street. And then maybe it is something that you could work to do.
Well, we should probably make sure it's documented when I would imagine they're gonna put in new curb stops. So we should make sure
Okay, it's not in the digging area, like that, Beaker, yes, I was gonna say that.
Make sure it's documented that if they're hooking on to copper or galvanized.
Sure, we can ask.
And then I would like to send a letter out and urge these people that, if you have a leaky line, it's in your benefit and the town's benefit to not have that water leak and get it. So improve
Well,
we can put a listening device on it.
Yeah, but remember when we did that before, remember when SOS did the town of Bristol, they basically said they didn't find any leaking service lines. But I will ask Ben,
fixed.
that's right, Ben, to note whether or not Munson hooking onto.
Because I know like the one that Acker did for Burton, he pulled a new copper line, or they dug across that parking lot.
Well, they had to chop through too.
Right, they had to chop through under the floor.
No, chop through the parking lot.
Okay.
Right, but.
Yeah, they ended up digging it, it didn't pull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull it.
Yeah. But yeah, sure, Joel.
I'd like to see that.
Yep, we will ask Ben to note whether or not Munson is hooking onto galvanized or copper.
Okay, and then, I thought I had one more. They said the Pine Street fire hydrant and the copper lines.
In the back drain. You did do 3, back drain.
Yes, I'm back. Okay, yeah, thank you. That's all I had.
I am good. So I guess it's your turn.
I guess so. All right, let's see. So first I wanted to thank Bruce because I had a conversation with him. I wasn't sure what was gonna come up tonight, if there was gonna be questions about it, but the select board had some questions, and, one I had received today was from Peter Coffey about, and this is about the ordinance the proposed gun ordinance was about VSP. And so I did contact Bruce and today, and I don't know if you were able to get a hold of the sergeant or anybody over at VSP. And what did he say?
Said if anybody had questions, they could contact the Vermont State Police as far as that particular incident, but we don't have any information. We didn't respond, so I can't speak about that.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't respond if there's no gun ordinance? Did he say that?
No, he said they responded to that incident, but if somebody wanted specific questions about that, they would have to contact the Vermont State Police.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly Tanya was very forthcoming about what ended up happening in the SA's office and all that, and certainly Bruce has looked into other, you know, there was a lot of questions that we'd received via email or on Front Porch Forum about existing laws and things like that. So if you're going to put this as a discussion item on your next agenda, it seems like maybe Bruce could be present because he has done some due diligence here, and just to be able to answer legal questions.
I'm just curious, there's gotta be, on the book somewhere, there's gotta be something for reckless discharge of a firearm.
Yes, there is.
I mean, is it,
Well,
it's probably not anything that's prosecutable, or, I mean,
Well, no, Tanya said they tried, but the state's attorney decided not to pursue it. So it's not that they didn't try to charge him, it's that the state's attorney either decided there wasn't enough evidence or he wouldn't get it. He wasn't gonna charge him for it. So it's not that they didn't pursue that course.
so even if we had an ordinance,
That wouldn't have mattered.
it wouldn't,
It wouldn't have mattered in whether they tried to charge him or not.
It was farther down the road than our ordinance. I mean, toward,
Is that what it's called? Reckless endangerment?
Or reckless discharge of a firearm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just think, I guess maybe then, if you're gonna put this as a discussion item on your next agenda, it might be helpful to have Bruce here so that he can answer some questions about what's existing out there for.
And there's some definitely misinformation about the statutes, you know,
Yes.
2291 versus 2295, Title 10. I mean, 2295 talks about owning a firearm, but it's also about the shooting ranges, and that's what Title 10 is about. That's just, well, we're not doing anything with shooting ranges.
Right,
So-
and that was one of the this very nice gentleman, Ed Cutler
Yes.
from Gun Owners Vermont. That's one thing he had sent me, was a couple of, you know, some information, and I emailed it back. That's great, but you know, they're not looking at regulated shooting ranges or certain things. But
The statute is recklessly endangering another person, the one that they were talking about.
so yeah, maybe that's. So I guess what you're looking for is to find out what's.
well, what's there? I mean, are we reinventing the wheel? Is there something that, is our ordinance, would our ordinance be something that we would collect a fine for, or would our ordinance be something that would still have to go to the state's attorney to be prosecuted, and if he decided it wasn't worth his time, it's basically, you're doing the same job. You're going there informing the people that this isn't a good idea, and, you know, you really should be more respectful of your neighbors.
If it's a civil violation, it goes to the judicial board, I believe, not the judicial
Bureau.
Right.
Not the courts.
Right. And municipal tickets, you guys, they can issue, but the money comes to the town. But so maybe what I'll do is get with Bruce before the next couple weeks and come up with, and just kind of get you some information about existing ordinances and stuff that, or not existing ordinances, existing laws on the books, which is what people are saying, enforce what you have. And then I could get you that information in a packet. And then maybe that would help answer some of the questions.
And as far as projectiles, I mean, where does the rest of the board stand on that? You know, baseball, archery at school, golf. I mean, I think I think it's way overdone.
I do too.
Yeah. All right, well, those are all great things to think about. So I just wanted to, anyways, thank Bruce for being here, because I wasn't sure how many, questions were gonna come up that we needed, certainly needed law enforcement to answer. So.
Well, obviously, the majority of the public that was here was not in favor of an ordinance that restricted.
It's an understatement.
Yeah. And but you, your front porch forums, you had a lot of them that were in favor, or that were in support of.
I thought the other way around.
Yeah, I thought that the majority of those were against.
Okay, well, I was just trying to sort when I made it for you, favor or not, but,
Yeah.
all right. But, so anyways, that was, I just wanted to thank Bruce for that. But, I did look at this again, and I was right. The funding for Pleasant Hills was denied by the Community Development Board. It was Pleasant Hills.
So that's the one up on Mountain Street.
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know. And we're having work at the reservoir is going to be done tomorrow morning. They're supposed to be on site around 9 a.m. So that's Liquid Engineers as well as the Aqua Store. So they're going to replace the cathodes, and they're also going to do some other work up there. Do I have that right? I thought it was because it's a cath something system. All right, I give up on this. It's getting
Give it up, Trace.
tomorrow, finally. So just so you know, that's happening tomorrow. I wasn't sure. I didn't think they were coming until August or September, but tomorrow. I thought, Peter, you'd want to talk about the 3-day.
3-day stampede.
Mm-hmm.
Be in town.
This weekend.
Moving trailers tomorrow morning, and they'll start setting up on
Wednesday morning, 7 a.m.
And so it's open the 28th through the 30th, right?
Should I bring up the condition of West Street again?
Don't go over West Street with a trailer.
You're going to pray for dry weather, that's all. The gas monitoring wells have been.
Permits for those trailers over there?
Of course they do.
The gas monitoring wells have been installed at the landfill, and Green Mountain Engineering has already been there to GPS the location so that they can add that data to the map.
And Therese, that V or whatever you want to call it, in that slope towards the east, is still oozing whatever it is and getting bigger.
Oh, no, good. Yeah, and they've been. Buzz was just here last week and said everything was great. I don't know.
Which ditch?
The last one towards where the old leaves used to be, right there, the grass is all caved in and it's washing out or something. The water from the top of the hill's coming down.
I can ask Buzz about it, but he was just there last week and said everything looked good. But I can email him. Better Back Roads grant was awarded to Addison County Regional Planning. They'll be working with the local road foremans to update our road and culvert inventory, and I'm not sure when that's going to start yet. I was reaching out to the lady at the state.
We should be. Didn't we have Green Mountain do a lot of those?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I thought we had them.
We did all of the village.
Are you sure it was
The old
was
water
it the
system
state?
where all the drains were. We GPSed all the drains.
Yeah, for some reason I thought we did the culverts because it was.
I think you're right, Bigger. I think we did.
I can ask a GME, so I don't know. It's not that I recall. Certainly not in the last 3 years. But
No, it was prior to that because it was one of the things you had to do to be eligible for a lot of this grant money, was you had to have the GPS location of all your culverts.
okay. And maybe they did.
Maybe I'm dreaming.
Well, they might have, and maybe it was something that they were doing through the state, because there is a big database from the state, and we have access to it to update, but a lot of it, like, Peter said, he hasn't updated it in years. So what this will do is, it's to give, the Addison County Regional Planning will run the grant. Peter, road foremans will have like little iPads or whatever. They'll go out because they know where the culverts are and take photos and this and that, and then Addison County Regional Planning is gonna accumulate all that data and put it out, but I can ask.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Ted gave me a price, so he's going to be repairing the side porch steps in the west end of the front porch on Holly Hall. So thank you for that, Ted.
That estimate only included the steps because
okay.
that side of the front porch out here, I really haven't inspected enough to.
Okay, so repairing.
It's a little scary.
All right, so 534, so he's gonna do the side porch steps, because right now two of them are just rotted right through, so they're marked off, so Ted is going to do that for us.
So it's okay to go ahead with that?
Yep, and we'll do the west end porch, west end of the front porch later. I had LaRose Survey finalize the survey of Stony Hill. property, so that's all set, and I think the closing is gonna be August 10th or 11th. So, to stand, so that will work out. The other thing I have is my final thing.
Letter.
Let's see.
Huh?
I was just looking for, I guess I left it downstairs. Anyway, so I just need a motion from the select board, with tremendous regret to accept the resignation of Eric Foran. His last day will be August 25th. He's accepted a job, with Vermont Emergency Management.
Make a motion to accept Eric's resignation with regret and wish him well in his endeavors. And a letter of thanks from the board for all of his dedication to town of Bristol government.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And if we all said nay, what would happen?
Nothing. He's still leaving.
That's right, don't matter.
Sound kind of like another employee we got, still leaving.
That's right. Everybody's out. That's it, so you have one very quick item for executive session.
Motion to enter executive session to discuss the employment and evaluation of one public officer, officers, or employees per 1 VSA, section 313, subsection A, subsection 3.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We
you,
are
Jimmy.
in executive